Okay.
All right, good. Thank you for setting the recording. Hi, I'm David Gelman. I chair the Budget Committee for Community Board 8. Welcome to our fiscal year 2024 budget priorities public hearing. Just as a background for some of you folks who have not been through this before, while we just started having our meetings for the new fiscal year last month, the fiscal year of 2023 started on July 1st and will go through June 30th of 2023. And what we are going to be talking about tonight is what has been submitted by the various committees for capital and expense budget requests, and we're put into a priority order preliminarily by the executive committee over the summer and the last two executive committee meetings. And this is for the next fiscal year of 2024, starting next July 1st. Excuse me. So what we will be doing is presenting the capital budget priorities and then the expense budget priorities for the members of the community and the members of the board to comment on. And I believe we have at least one, I don't know, possibly more members of the community. Oh yes, thank you. If you could put up the capital, there we go. To have the comments from members of the community. And my understanding is that Deirdre Burke has signed up and she will be our first commenter. We're aiming for about 3 minutes. Deirdre, take it away.
Okay, here I am. I feel like Yogi Berra said deja vu all over again. This is probably maybe the 4th or 5th time I've come before the budget hearing with basically the same song. My interest really is in parks, and in this case, particularly Van Cortlandt Park. I have spent a lot of time walking in Van Cortlandt Park on the Putnam Trail and other trails. And I know you know this, but there is a dire need for enforcement, increased enforcement and increased maintenance. What's happening around the Putnam Trail is it's really not safe for pedestrians. ATVs have taken over, cyclists are speeding, and the greeting there is usually get the F out of the way. I would suggest, I guess it's a combination of both budget streams, that there be more PEP officers or enforcement officers at various times in the day, in the evening, and that there be increased maintenance and perhaps changes to that trail, like speed bumps or something that's going to slow all of those bad actors down. And you know, if there isn't enforcement, fewer and fewer regular people are going to stop using that area of the park, and it will be given over almost totally to bad actors. As a result of this misuse of the trail, this damage to trees, this damage to plants, and it's spreading out in other parts of the park, you know, the more rustic and rural areas of the park. And I know this is not part of it. I know you've heard me say this before, so I'll say it again. But outside of the park, and I know this is not really in your budget priorities, but we need increased enforcement and safety on the streets and sidewalks of the community. Being an old person, I walk around a lot, and there are motorized bikes on the sidewalk. There are motorized bikes going through traffic signals, and they're basically probably not intentionally, but terrorizing people. So anyway, that's my song. I'm singing it again. I'll probably be back next time. So whatever you can do to have increased enforcement in Van Cortlandt Park and the other parks in our community board would be extraordinarily helpful to all of us park users. Thanks.
Okay. Thank you, Deirdre. And maybe during the board meeting, when Bob Bender, the Parks Chair, talks about the parks activities, he can comment on and suggestions about the future, because we do have some elements in this budget request relating to PEP enforcement. And there are some issues that surround our ability to enforce given ADA requirements to enable wheelchairs, which unfortunately enables bad actors on motorized vehicles. But maybe we can get into that during the Parks meeting. Unless, Bob, do you want to make a comment now?
Yeah, I do, David. I know we're on the capital budget request right now, but when we get to the expense budget request, you will see that the number one item is more PEP personnel to enforce rules and regulations in the city parks. So Deirdre Burke is right that there's too much activity taking place in the parks that should not be taking place there. There are people on electric vehicles, motorcycles, and so on. And she's quite right that it's not just in the parks, it's happening on the streets as well. But it is actually our number one expense budget request, which, as I say, I presume we will get to after we do the capital budget requests.
Yes, we will. Okay, Kira, do we have any other inputs from members of the community, requests to speak?
Nobody else signed up with the office, but there may be folks here. If you will just raise your hand now. If not, we can go on, I guess.
Okay, I don't see any. Any board member wish to make a comment about our priorities? They were sent out to every board member and posted on the website last week. Well, at least for the capital budget priorities. Any other comments from board members? Oh, Rosemary? You're
Okay,
muted.
no, it's just, okay, so just maybe I'm jumping ahead too much, but when it comes to the vote, I would request that the expense budget be one vote and the capital budget be another vote.
Yes.
I ask that the votes be split. Thank you.
It will
Okay.
be.
Thank you, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments about the capital budget priorities? Well, Kira, why don't you bring it back up and we'll just leaf through it pretty quickly. We have quite a bit of time.
I see Moses's hand is up.
Mr. Sama.
Hey there, David. So sorry, just had a quick one for you. Just wanted to confirm, and sorry, I'll fix my camera eventually here.
Oh, much. Yeah, we like seeing your face. Not just
Yeah,
your
I'll get that. I need to get some lighting. But for the item number 5 on the capital budget request, so the renovation for the bathroom, can you remind me, please? Are these the ones that I think the city council member did include some funding in his plan too? Am I correct that, or was it always just connected to the list we have here? This is the renovation for the bathroom at PS24. I know. I remember that there was some. Maybe
I believe the council member did address some monies there, but these are the requests that we were identifying.
Yeah.
And we've actually been fairly fortunate that the councilman has been pretty responsive in looking at our requests and seeing what he could goose along faster. And I think this one might be one of them.
Okay. But it still gets we still get to keep it right on our list, even if they're.
Yeah. To be fair, this document is also a statement of our priorities as a community, as well as, yes, we want X. It's also how do we want to prioritize things, what we think is important for our community. And interestingly enough, Margaret Della created a map of capital projects over the last 5 or 7 years, and it shows a very interesting, there we go, distribution across the community, which is helpful. Having those priorities identifies to our community what we believe, and the community seems to concur, are the priorities for our our community. And then that brings in elements of geography, demography, condition, real condition, fear of failure of the equipment or the building, not us. But urgency is the word I was looking for. But at any rate, so it is a good indicator.
Awesome. Yep, that makes sense. Thank you.
All righty. All right. Why don't I think we largely covered the capital priorities. Let's go back across to. Does anybody want to see any of the particular capital request items? Rosemary?
Yeah, just a quick scroll, just a
Okay,
quick
fine.
scroll. There are people from the community who are here, maybe have not seen this list at all.
Okay,
Just a
okay.
slow roll would be helpful, I think. Okay, thank you.
Are you suggesting that we slow roll our community?
Slow rolling, slow rolling. Mhm.
Okay. Thanks, Rob. Just as an editorial comment, you'll see that there are a lot of Step Street items there. They frankly, they're concrete or brick or stone or whatever, and they do tend to require a fair amount of maintenance. So, and our section of the Bronx has quite a few of them. Okay, Kira, can you put up the expense budget requests? Great. Members of the community, you have had the opportunity to see this. Does anybody have any particular comments about these priorities? Okay, I'll ask the same question of my fellow board members. Do you have any particular questions or comments about our expense priorities? Margaret?
I was
Welcome home or
curious
whatever.
about some of the, my internet might be sporadic, but I was curious about some of the DOE priorities. I think DOE has a sizable budget, and I'm just wondering how we can be advocating for these priorities, perhaps in more effective ways. I see some bathroom renovations, some amphitheater renovations, and those sorts of things. I think DOE has a multi-billion-dollar budget, and I'm just wondering, what advocacy we could be taking at the capital level within DOE to try and advocate on behalf of some of the schools in the Bronx.
Yeah, well, that, Margaret, may I interject, does come out of the Education Committee. And we work together to write letters of support and to advocate. Tomorrow, we're meeting David, Kira, myself with Senator Rivera. We'll take a look at projects in his district and, what he's interested in, what's on our list, what coincides. So those conversations, you know, take place continually. And, you know, hopefully some things do move off the list. Like if the bathroom is 100%, that number 5 item on the capital, then it will be moved off our list. But we, you know, we continue all year on a regular basis to write letters of support and to speak to the elected officials about it. So definitely, because they do have an enormous budget. Yeah.
Okay.
Mo-
Moses, do you have a comment or question?
No, I just want to respond to that a little bit because I'm not sure if Sylvia is on, but let me try to help out. I know what Sylvia will say. That essentially, like, DOE's budget is big, but I think what her experience has been is that they often say no, right? They're like their main response between DOE and the school construction authority is there's no money for this thing, so we're not going to do it. And so I think part of the dynamic is we want to keep pushing, keep putting it out here so they see this is a priority for the community. But then, as Madam Chair was thinking about the other avenues for pushing as well. But you'd be surprised how often apparently DOE would just their canned response is there's no money for whatever the priority is. It's kind of interesting.
Frankly, we have been fortunate that the councilman
Yeah.
has been good to us off of this budget cycle. So that has been helpful, and we will, as Laura was suggesting, we will always continue to pursue the various budget avenues. As I've always said, there are budgets and there are budgets, and so we pursue everything we can. So next, Camelia.
Yeah, hi, do you hear me, David? Because I'm not sure we
Yes.
might. Oh, okay,
Yes.
great. David, I just kind of want to back up Margaret on this a little bit. And yes, of course I heard, you know, our community members speaking about the enforcement on all this new vehicle in parks, etc., which is our priority number 1. But I do question a little bit how to say it being listed as priority number 1, because it's very clear that there will never be enough parks enforcement to regulate all the scooters, all the bicyclists, all you know, everybody kind of using inappropriately parks. So, but this is our priority number 1. But then on DOE, it's all the way priority number 33, for example, from the Education Committee, PS 310 in Marble Hill, you know, replace broken seats, motorized display screen, stage and curtains. These are such like basic school infrastructure. So I do feel like, I don't know, now we are having kind of like an aspirational number 1 priority for scooters in parks, etc., which is not like, what exactly do you want? 5 more stuff, 10 more stuff? Will they really make a difference? But repairing broken seats at PS 310 Marble Hill, it is a very specific, clear and defined purpose that personally I feel it should be moved up, but I'm not Education Committee. I'm kind of just making a plea if maybe, I don't know who or how do you make these decisions, but I do feel like this is a very specific thing that should be way higher on the list.
The we is all of us. We've discussed this several times, you know, in the committees in the winter and springtime, at the executive committee in June, and then in September and last week. So there has been a number of inputs on that. And I think that not to get to a micro level, but the one that you did mention, that concern has been expressed by many, many corners. And so that's really what created that reaction. And again, we need to make sure that, you know, at the moment we're talking about expense budget requests as opposed to the capital budget requests. Tracy Collins.
Hi, everyone.
I'm sorry.
Manager at the Whitehall. And I was able to review the scroll quickly, but my question is, as it relates to 3333 Henry Hudson Parkway, any of the projects that you have in the pipeline will affect the operations of the building for the Whitehall.
I'm sorry, I don't understand your question.
So the question is, in terms of the projects that you have scheduled or that, you know, are upcoming for 2023, will it impact the Whitehall?
All right, well, first of all, we're referring to 2024 that starts in
Okay.
July, and they're not projects. These are requests that we're making of city agencies.
Got it. Okay.
Okay. Does that?
That answers my question.
Okay, very good. All right, good. Just say, I am, sorry. Are there any other questions or comments? All right, we have just a few minutes, and so as to save a little time during the body of our board meeting, and I'm informed by our secretary that we have more than a quorum available. I would like to put up each of the two budget request priority lists individually for a vote. With respect to our capital budget request priorities, I would like to see, frankly, hands that are opposed to the priorities that were laid out last week.
I'm sorry, I actually have a point of order. You didn't, I have a point of order.
Yes.
Before. Are we allowed to vote now if we didn't notify the rest of the board members that we would be voting before the meeting, even if we have a quorum?
I'm sorry.
David, we could postpone.
We could postpone it for during the meeting. I was just trying to save 5 minutes.
No, and I
an hour
greatly
from now.
appreciate your intent because I have concerns about the meeting timeliness, but it's just, I don't know about the appropriateness of voting when people weren't told if they weren't here now, they wouldn't get to vote on this. Does that make sense?
Board members are expected to be at these hearings as well as for the meeting itself, and we do have more than a quorum. That's the only reason why, but if you have an objection to it,
I'm hoping for discuss. It was actually more of a question: is this procedurally acceptable?
Okay, all right.
I think that we should hold it over. People might be late.
Okay, fine. All right. Just in
perfect.
closing, then, in closing of our budget here. I'm sorry, Rosemary. Do you have another comment?
Yes, I do that. And just this is a procedural one, David.
Okay.
To say who's in favor. No, there's a resolution to approve the capital budget list. Is there discussion on that resolution? That's the first thing. And then members can talk about, and then you vote, okay? So that's,
And
there's a resolution to approve. Is there a discussion on that resolution? Okay.
There seems to be sufficient resistance that I am withdrawing my resolution.
I see Lisa's hand up, David.
Yeah,
Okay, yeah, Lisa.
it was just that we have to wait till we have a roll call, you know.
Yeah, you're right. I was going to have Rob do it, but since there's sufficient resistance, let's just wait. We'll get to it in probably half an hour, 45 minutes. So in closing, thank you for your time. I just want to remind everybody that while we are voting on our budget priority requests that we will be submitting to OMB for fiscal year 2024, we will be starting a new cycle for 2025 this winter. So I encourage everybody to put on your thinking caps and come to individual committee meetings with ideas for other or renewed capital budget requests and expense budget requests. And then think about it in November, December, and actually discuss it with your committees in January and put it to paper in February. And then hopefully you'll get to vote on it, to prioritize it in March. So With that, I'd like to close this budget hearing of Community Board 8 for our budget priorities for fiscal year 2024. Thank you very much for your participation.
Thank you, David. It's now 7 o'clock. We will proceed with our gallery speakers. This is Laura Spalter, Chair of the Board. Welcome to our October full board meeting, everyone. Is Joel Rivera present? I don't see. Is Joel Rivera present? Okay, we'll go on to, is Alexandria Fittipaldi present? Is Miss Medi present? On behalf of Christina Carlson, who could not make it tonight to discuss the visitation site. Is there anyone from the visitation site that is speaking on tonight's gallery? Okay, we'll circle back. We have Deirdre Burke. I know Deirdre is on. Deirdre?
Hi
Deirdre?
there. You must be getting tired of me.
No, no. Go ahead, Deirdre.
Oh, last month I attended the Traffic and Transportation Committee meeting. And upon reviewing the minutes of that meeting, I noticed that there was a suggestion to change the dismissal of PS 81 from Riverdale Avenue to West 256th Street. And it was noted that this was the way it was done pre-pandemic. I've been involved in PS 81 about 35 years, and I know Bob Bender probably even longer. There was never a time where the school was dismissed in a toto through the West 256th Street exit. In order to safely move students around a school, with the eye to the need for an evacuation, they need practice, familiarity, and speed. There could be upwards of 800, maybe 1,000 souls in that building when it was fully utilized and overutilized. There is no way that all of those children could leave by one exit. In addition, that is the bus staging area. So the notion that you'd move the double parked cars to that street would seal up the street and damage the buses. I do have a suggestion for what might ameliorate the parking on Riverdale Avenue. And that would be to return to the general ed busing that was eliminated many years ago. A number of schools in our community board, 9524, had general ed busing because their zones are big or their zones are dangerous. And once that was eliminated above the second grade, parents took to driving their kids to school, especially when it was a long distance, it's a big zone. So it is an ill-advised notion. It would be dangerous for children. It would not pass a school safety plan review, and I have reviewed many of them. And it's a waste of time to pursue this when there are so many other things that could be pursued with the Department of Transportation, like the restoration of general ed busing, because that would eliminate an awful lot of cars there if you had general ed busing all the way through the 5th grade. And aside, listening to the budget priorities, when somebody does something at a school, like the work that was done at 81, that actor should be required to do a complete restoration. That would be the fence and the cherry trees that were gifts from Japan. That's an aside. I know it's important to a lot of kids, those cherry trees. But anyway, thank you very much. And I hope that you can pursue the restoration of general ed busing, because it would be gratefully helpful to at least 81, 24, 95, and maybe some other schools. And that's right up the DOT's alley. They like buses. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Deirdre. Just circling back, Joe Rivera from the Racial Justice Commission is not on the call for the gallery. And Alexandra Fittipaldi or Exarna Ahmedi for the visitation site. Okay, so we will move on to my agenda, report from the Borough President's office. Is there anyone from the BP's office with us tonight? Kira, I don't see anybody.
We do have Jeffrey Lawfer. I don't know if Jeffrey's here to do a report on behalf
Oh,
of the
well, let
Borough
me
President.
welcome him. Oops. Sure, if he would like to say a few words and introduce himself. No, maybe he's muted or it's hard, I'm trying to.
It looks like
Dan, you
Jeffrey
had,
keeps
okay.
dropping off of the call, so he's trying to come back in.
Okay, and Dan, your hand is up.
Yeah, Laura, it was just, I was trying to get in the beginning of the meeting, just to make a motion to amend the agenda on I guess a couple items. One other one I just had come up as I was reading some minutes here. One was an agenda I'd sent to the board, or I'm sorry, a resolution that I'd sent to the board. Yeah.
On
So,
Eastbridge Heights Community Center.
correct. Yeah, so that was one amendment to the agenda that I wanted to
Okay.
make.
Okay, and we're going to bring that up at the parks since that's a parks property.
Did you want to do the resolution to amend at that point? I only raise it now just because, normally Robert's rules is when you adopt the meeting, adopt the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. That's why I ask. That's why my hand is up.
That's.
And I don't mind bringing it later.
No. Well,
I'm just trying to stay within protocol.
Well,
Dan,
can a resolution be brought at any time from the floor by a board member?
Yes, but my motion was just to amend the agenda to include it on there.
all right, is there any objection to amending the resolution to include this resolution that was just sent out prior to the board meeting? Any objection? I don't hear any abstentions. So that's fine. I just thought
Thank
it
you.
made sense to put it on as part of the.
Understood.
Okay,
I was just
very
trying to
good.
stay with Robert. There's a second item and just came, I was reading the parks minutes, which very good, Bob. There's a few issues that came up with me and just realized that the parks election for chair, when we did nominating committee last year, nobody stepped forward. But I know that one of the rules of the board is that we have to call an election.
And 60
Generally, I think it's within 2 board meetings after the vacancy, which would be tonight.
No,
Figuring the vacancy occurred on July 1st.
actually, I had announced in June that we would have Bob Bender do the parks meetings, and I'm going to have an election next month. I didn't
So,
count the summer.
which is-
because boards don't generally function on meeting in the summer. I really didn't count the summer. So I'm not holding an election tonight, Dan, but I will hold one next month.
So the only thing I would say, Laura, is, just in sticking with our bylaws, and again, I doubt anybody's going to step forward tonight, but I would say that, our bylaws do require, it's generally by the second board meeting after the vacancy occurred. And it's not a matter of counting the summer or not. It's generally by the second board meeting. And, Marty, our parliamentarian, can comment on this. I'm sure he knows the bylaws back and forth.
Marty? Is Marty on? Yeah, I know.
Marty's on.
Can I have an election next month? I was counting the 60 days as September, October, because I didn't count the summer.
Dan is correct.
Okay,
This is the second board meeting and it should take place today. You're not prepared to do it today. No one's come forward to wish to be nominated today. So if we need to waive the rules so that the election takes place next month.
is there any objection to waiving the rules and having an election next month? Is there any objection?
I'm going to leave my hand up for an objection just to stay in compliance with the rules. I guess it's just, yeah.
Okay. Rosemary, yeah, I was just. letting you finish. No, no,
Okay, I know it must be very hard to look at all the hands up, but we have bylaws and we have rules, and it doesn't matter whether anybody steps forward or not. We're required to have an election. If nobody steps up, nobody steps up. We're required to have an election. And I don't know, there's just, I don't, maybe I was chair of local rules and ethics, I was chair of the board, we have to follow the rules. And we can't make them up and say, well, next month is okay. If whatever happens tonight, but the rules are the rules. So go forward with the rules. It could be fun. Yes,
Okay.
I object to changing the bylaws. I object to ignoring the bylaws and not putting forward an election. I do object to. Thank you.
Okay, I would then, first I want to say, I really didn't mean to ignore or disabuse our bylaws. I respect our bylaws. I honestly thought that 60 days was, I didn't count the summer, but that's okay because we could have an election for the parks. Okay. I'm just looking here. We went through Office of the Borough President's office. We have the report from the 50th Police Precinct, but I understand because we changed our date, they have the 50th Precinct Community Council tonight and other commitments, other conflicts. So we don't have a report from the 50th. Okay. We could have an election now. Okay, then next we'll go into chairs and treasurer's report and whatnot. So, and Dan and Rosemary, I do thank you for bringing that to my attention. When the agendas went out, nobody said anything and I really hadn't thought of it. So thank you for bringing it to my attention. I will commence with an election for the Parks Committee. And I do have someone that I would like to nominate. May I do that?
Should we do a roll call first?
Oh, yeah, do a roll call first.
You have the hands up.
Yeah, Bob's hand is up also. He may have a question or a statement.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, if we had to amend the agenda to introduce a resolution for the Parks Committee, I don't quite understand how we can go ahead and have a vote on filling a committee chair without amending the agenda as well. I mean, it seems to me, that's number one. Number two, I understand the bylaws, but if the board as a whole votes to postpone the election of the Parks Committee chair for another month, I don't see how that's in any way in conflict with the bylaws, and I believe that can be done. And again, I would rely on our Law, Rules, and Ethics chair to say if there is any reason why we cannot tonight decide that we want to postpone the election of the Parks Committee chair until the November board.
Marty, you're in demand tonight.
Yeah, it's gonna get worse later, but Rosemary is right. It's a bylaws. We have to follow our bylaws. But if it doesn't, as Bob just pointed out, it's not on the agenda. Putting it on the agenda, we could easily do that. But the question is, people have not been offered the opportunity to come forward. You may have somebody in mind you want to nominate, but are there others who would want that position? And if we haven't advertised it, I think that's problematic. So if it's required that a vote be taken after attendance is taken as to whether or not to amend the agenda and whether or not to waive the rules for tonight, then that vote needs to be taken.
I see, thank you. I see Julia Gomez.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm sorry, maybe I'm just running at kind of half speed. I think the question I have that I'm not entirely sure has been answered is, are we as a body allowed to vote to disregard?
I'm
Hello?
sorry, Julie, start again. There was a little interference there.
I guess the question I have is, are we as a board allowed to vote at any given time that to put aside the bylaws? I don't recall us doing this before, so maybe it's just, we haven't encountered it, but are we just allowed, is that something we can take up at, not just in this circumstance, but at any given time? Is that something we are able to vote on? Does that make sense? I don't know if I'm being clear.
I don't know.
Well, is the question, do people understand the question? I guess is my first question, and then we'll have an
Yes.
answer to it. Okay. Again, I'm sorry. I've been in like 16 hours of meetings in the last 2 days, so I'm a little fried. I apologize.
No, not at all. Not at all. I just don't know. But the bylaws are the bylaws. So, you know, this was an oversight on my part, so I'm perfectly all right with amending the agenda to include what should have been included. And I'm sorry it wasn't noticed when it went out, 10 days ago or whatever brought to my attention. We certainly, so I thank you. This is not my strong suit.
No, and I appreciate you owning it. Like I said, I'm not sure. I'm a little nervous if we are about the precedent we set, that at any point we can just vote that we're not going to follow the bylaws. But I may be,
well, I think
again, I may be overly anxious.
No, I think Bob Bender's point that we, we should vote to add it to the agenda because it wasn't on the agenda is well taken. And Rosemary's point, Dan's point, I don't really want to spend a lot of time on this. I imagine some people are rolling their eyes like, okay, get to it. So there's David and then Deb.
Yes, thank you. An oversight occurred. Responsibility was accepted and acknowledged. We've spent 15 minutes on it. I would like to move to table this till next month when we can actually inform everybody about its existence and people can submit names in a more timely basis other than 90 seconds.
I'm sorry, David, but again, my question still hasn't been answered if we can do this.
I'm asking to table it.
Right, but you're asking us to vote to disregard the bylaws. Is that something we are able to do? It's not just tabling a motion. It's not just tabling a discussion. This is tabling the bylaws.
Right.
I am looking through Robert's rules as we speak.
In the meantime, Deb, your hand is up.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise that I believe the bylaws also indicate a cadence for the nomination process and for notification and such. And so I think, the lack of notification, which is nobody's fault, these things happen, but because we haven't asked people to put forward their names, that's also part of the bylaws question. I think we're just in a catch-22. Where if we vote, we are just breaking a different part of the bylaws that we set up about notification. I don't have I was trying to find the rule in front of me, but I think we're in a catch-22 where because we haven't noticed it, we're just breaking that part. And so, I mean, I believe in, Marty can say, or Kelly Buford, who's also a parliamentarian, can say, but my assumption is that generally a majority vote or a super majority vote could table a vote that's part of the bylaws for, as long as it's happening.
The thing is, I will say that at last month's meeting, Bob Bender's put out, and he has repeatedly put out, and in June we put out that there is an opening. The nominating committee put out there is an opening. So everyone on the board is aware about the opening. So while it wasn't a formal thing, I do feel that we have been pushing. And I am, Rosemary, your hand is up from before, or?
Yes, no, it is now. Is there not an appropriate resolution in front of this board? And that is David Gilman's. David Gilman's motion is to table this. You saw the beginning of the discussion on that resolution from Julia Gomez saying, I don't think we're able to do that. I don't think we're able to table the bylaws. Move the resolution and have the discussion on that. By the way, I agree with Julia. We do not have the authority to overlook the bylaws, okay? But there's a resolution in front of us. Move the resolution.
Is there a
Take
second?
vote.
All right.
I second it.
It is seconded. The motion in front of us is to table an election until the next board meeting.
Attendance.
So should we
All
take
right,
attendance?
Yes, go back to that. We were interrupted. Go ahead.
Okay,
roll call.
Sylvia
Then we'll
Alexander,
vote on that motion.
Sylvia Alexander. Okay, she was
I
here.
thought I saw her.
Yes,
Sylvia
she's
is here, but she is muted.
okay. Constance Barnes Watson, Bob Bender,
Here.
Kelly Buford.
Present.
Oh, Chris Calhoun. He was here.
I saw
Chris-
his name.
Yeah, Chris Calhoun. Joy Campbell Privateer. Lee Chong,
Present.
Sebastian Chitalapoli,
Present.
Lisa Daub,
Present.
Ingrid DeCosta, Margaret Della,
Present.
Margaret Donata,
Present.
Moses Asemnia,
Present.
Bob Fanuzzi, Nick Fazio, Steve Fruit is not, David Gelman,
Present.
Rosemary Ginty,
Present.
Julia Gomez,
Present.
Edward Green,
Present.
Rashida Hilliard,
Here.
Rob Jaglowski, Myra Joyce,
Here.
Bob Kaplan,
Here.
Scott Krompinger,
Present.
Rita Proctor Lowe,
Here.
Charles Merdler,
Sort of here.
Theodore Morris, Omar Murray,
Here.
Dan Paternak,
Here.
here.
Present.
Okay.
Thanks.
Julie Reyes. Julie is.
I'm sorry, I had to unmute myself.
Okay.
Present.
I
Uh,
love
Georgia Santiago,
Here.
Ramdat Singh,
Present.
Laura Spalter,
present.
Leonia Tetin,
Present.
Camelia Tepelis, Camelia Tepelis.
Do you hear me?
Now I do. Okay.
Okay.
Deborah Travis,
Present.
Brian Hodges Vasquez, Stephen Vasquez, Sergio Villaverde, Marty Walpoff,
Present.
and let me go back. Let me go all the way back. Joy, no. Ingrid DeCosta, no. Robert Fanuzzi, no. Nick Fazio, no. Theodore Morris, no. Brian Hodges Vasquez, Stephen Vasquez, Sergio Villaverde. Okay.
Bob
You get to
Panuzzi may
Sylvia?
be joining late. You watch for him. He is
Okay.
Coming around 7:30-ish.
Oh, and Sylvia Alexander. Let me try her again. Did she finally? That was one we saw, but wasn't verbal.
Um,
Nope. there she is, Sylvia, right there.
She's listed as here, but she's unmuted. I mean,
Okay,
she's
she's
muted,
muted.
so
Okay,
we'll
okay,
see if
Okay,
she,
I'll just put a box around it. Okay.
Rob, how many was that?
Oh, yeah, let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 32.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion. Rosemary has clarified that we can act on this motion. The motion has been seconded. The
And
motion,
just Point of
No,
information.
I have not, I haven't clarified anything. There is
to
a
act on the
motion
motion,
by
Rosemary.
There is somebody who made a motion to add this to the agenda. Somebody came in and said, I make a motion to table that motion.
Yes.
Fortunately or unfortunately, in Robert's rules, that takes precedence, okay? Okay, so that takes, there's a motion to add it to the calendar. There's a motion to table it. That takes precedence. Now, has it been seconded? Yes.
Yes.
Now we have discussion on that motion.
Point of information.
Go ahead, Marty.
I'm holding Robert's rules, which fortunately I have with me here where I am.
Bless you.
And according to these
Bible.
rules, the answer is yes and no. The answer is yes, you can. These rules therefore require both previous notice, which didn't take place, and it says 2/3 vote, but it has to be majority. The city charter says we can't have supermajorities. So previous notice and the vote, and we have not done previous notice, so the answer is no. We have to follow the bylaws, which says have a vote at this time.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, so David, that motion is moot. And we're going to have nominations now for Parks Chair.
You have to add it to the agenda.
We did add it to the agenda, I thought.
I think that was my original motion, which was then superseded by David's tabling motion.
I second Dan's motion to add it to the agenda.
Thank you, Julia.
And I've moved to table it, and in reality, I think the greater harm is to have a vote when it wasn't opened up to the community, even though there was an associated failure that caused it. Can we please vote on my motion to
The
table?
parliamentarian has ruled that your motion is not valid and we cannot vote on it. So we go back to Dan's motion.
Correct. Madam Chair.
All right. We have a vote on adding it to the agenda. Is there anyone opposed to adding it to the agenda? I feel deja vu. I thought I asked this already before. Is there, okay, is there anyone opposed to adding the voting to the agenda? Is there anyone abstaining? Oh, wait,
Whoa.
there are hands. Who's objecting? Now I have 4 hands, so let me backtrack. Is there anyone objecting to adding it to the agenda? Just these 4 are,
I'm gonna read the names just for the record. to Make it
yes,
easier
yes,
when we're writing
yes,
minutes.
yes.
So in opposition, we have Bob Bender, David Gelman, Ed Green.
In opposition. Is there anyone abstain? Okay, put your hands down. Is there anyone abstaining on adding it to the agenda? Sebastian?
And Kelly.
Okay, so it passes. It is now added to the agenda. Now, according to what Marty said, and again, I so apologize for this mishmash and all the time it's taking. We will now proceed to take nominations from the floor for Parks Chair. May I nominate someone as chair? Bob Bender. Let me call him Bob Bender.
I nominate Deb Travis to be chair of the Parks Committee.
Deb,
I
you
I
accept?
second.
Okay.
Second.
Deb, you accept?
I accept, yeah.
Okay, I'm calling on Rosemary Ginty.
I am, I'm not even sure what to say. It's nothing to do with the nomination of Deb, but this was all prearranged, and why this wasn't put on the agenda. And every member of this board be notified that there was a vacancy that they could apply for. Okay, this is an oversight that is not an oops. Okay, this is not right. We have had no, like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Do you want me to stop talking? Is that what you'd like, Laura? I will.
No, not at all. But now it's getting personal, and it was an oops. It was an oops. You may continue, but now it's getting personal. We voted to have it. We're having it, and we have a long agenda. So if I tell you that everybody knows about this parks opening, and if I tell you that I was not counting the summer, and so I thought it was September, October, and had fully planned to have one in November, it was an oops. Nothing nefarious. Now, are we going to have this election so we can move on with this long agenda tonight? Believe me, I wouldn't have brought this on myself. Nobody would bring this on themselves. You know, really.
Madam Chair, if I may, point of information. It is
I have the
absolutely-
floor. I
I'm
have
sorry?
the floor, and the chair is speaking to me, but I have the floor at the moment. Go ahead.
You're not finished yet.
I certainly am not finished. The chair wanted to speak, and I allowed the chair the courtesy of continuing to speak. Correct.
All right, go ahead, continue.
Well, I want to make sure the chair has said yes. Yes.
Sure.
Okay. There is. I'm not accusing anything nefarious. I am not attacking in any way. It is bothersome to me as a member of this community board. Very bothersome that 4.5 months have gone by. And please share with us, have the office share with me or the board when there has been any notice whatsoever of there being a vacancy that would be considered in one of the 2 board meetings under the bylaws. Any information whatsoever. That Dan came across this and asked to be put on, and all of a sudden there is a nomination of somebody to take. That's all fine. We are able as a board to vote for the person who's been nominated. No problem with that. My question is, why was there no notification over 4.5 months that this vacancy needed to be brought up and filled, and somebody could step in to take that position?
Because I didn't remember.
I'm sorry.
That we were doing it this month, and we have to move on. Because if we're having this, then we're having this.
Point of order,
all the
Madam Chairman.
conspiracy
Point of order,
theories
Madam Chairman.
that they want.
Point of order, Madam Chairman.
Go
This
ahead.
has gone too far. It dishonors the board and all of its members. I move that the meeting be adjourned.
I'm not hearing a second, but I would like to.
I second.
continue. Well, now we have a motion to adjourn this meeting. And again, I really apologize. I cannot get over this. It's like I'm damned if I say we'll postpone. I'm damned if I say let's friggin' have it, because I'm ready to have it. I'm ready to hear nominations, okay? And I'm ready to just have it. But there is a motion now. Is there anybody opposed to the motion of?
I'm sorry, Madam Chair, I have a point of order. I'm really sorry. I swear I am. Does
Yeah.
that motion trump the motion we already did to amend the meeting and start this nomination process. I,
Motion to adjourn is always in order,
okay, thank you.
without debate.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
Please continue, Madam Chair.
So, Chuck, can you repeat your motion?
I move that we adjourn. I do so for one reason. We are injuring this board with this kind of discussion.
Yes.
It just doesn't help. It doesn't help the community. It doesn't help the participants. It doesn't help anyone. And before it goes any further, I move we adjourn.
Is there any discussion? Oh, no, there is no, Marty, there is no discussion on a
No
movement. to
discussion.
adjourn. I'm sorry, what? Say it again, Marty.
No discussion.
So is there anyone opposed to ending this meeting right now? Based on the motion in front of us? Is there anyone opposed to that?
I would be opposed.
I'm gonna read the
I would-
names.
Okay,
Okay, so Rita, we have Rita.
Yes.
David Gelman, Moses Asema, Bob Bender, Leona Tetton, Margaret Della, Ramdat Singh, Ed Green, Dan Paternak, Lisa Dowd, Julia Gomez, Lee Chong, Rosemary Ginty. Anyone else?
is there anyone
Oh,
abstaining?
Hold on,
Oh, wait.
Rashida Hilliard. We're still on opposed, everybody.
We're on opposed.
Okay, so we have Rashida, Constance Barnes, Scott Croppinger, Julia Gomez, Deb Travis.
You know, I'm sure that this was not planned in any way. And I would hate to have the meeting postponed because it's just very hard to get people together anyway. And if we could just revise, you know, what was said, I think that we should just go on with it.
I don't think the motion carries. How many are opposed? How many do we have opposed?
Well, let's see, abstain first.
Abstain.
So everyone please lower your hand unless you're abstaining.
I don't know, mine's down.
You may need to do a roll call.
It's too confusing. I think we have to do a roll call
And a roll call.
because the hands came down before I. Okay, here we go.
Well, we've had a cooling off period at least.
Maybe.
Okay, the motion is to terminate the meeting. Okay,
Oh,
and is there anyone opposed to that? We'll do a roll call.
okay. Sylvia Alexander,
Yes.
you're opposed.
No, I'm not opposed. I'm for it.
Okay.
Can we just be clear what,
Yeah,
so in the question, to say yes, no, or
yeah.
abstain?
Say
What
opposed.
does it mean?
Yeah. The motion is to adjourn.
Adjourn
the
or
me-
not adjourn?
Yes,
yes means
To
adjourn. Okay,
yes means adjourn.
okay.
No means do not adjourn.
Constance
Okay.
Barnes Watkins?
Thank you.
Constance Barnes Watkins, yes or no?
Hear me?
No, you haven't voted yet.
I said no.
Oh, okay. Opposed. Bob Bender,
Resoundingly no.
Kelly Buford?
No.
No? Yes? Kelly
I
Buford?
said no.
Okay.
I said no.
Chris Calhoun? Chris Calhoun? Lee Chong?
No.
Sebastian?
I'm abstaining.
Lisa Dowd?
Opposed to adjourning.
Okay, thank you. Ingrid DeCosta's not here. Margaret Della?
No.
Margaret Donato? Margaret Donato? Not
No.
here. Okay. Moses?
No, definitely not.
Bob Fanuzzi, not here. Nick Fazio, not here. Stephen Fruit. David Gelman,
Do not
do,
adjourn, excuse
do
me.
not adjourn. Okay. Rosemary
Sorry.
Ginty,
No.
Julia Gomez,
No.
Ed Green,
No.
Rashida Hilliard,
No.
Rob Jaglowski, no. Myra Joyce,
No.
Bob Kaplan,
No.
Scott Krompinger,
No.
Rita Proctor Lowe,
No.
Chuck Merdler,
Yes.
Ted Morris is not here. Omar Murray is, yeah, Omar Murray was here.
No, no.
No, okay. Dan Paternak.
I'm sorry, Rob, I was muted.
Oh,
I'm
sorry.
voting no against the resolution to
Okay.
adjourn the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you.
Julie Reyes,
No.
Georgia Santiago,
No.
Ramdat Singh,
Opposed.
Laura Spalter,
No.
Leona Tetton,
No.
Camelia Tepelis,
Yes.
Deb Travis,
No.
Brian Hodges Vasquez is not here. Stephen Vasquez, not here. Sergio Villaverde, not here. Marty Wolfoff.
Yes.
Oh, yes. Okay. So resoundingly opposed.
So we continue this, this meeting. I hope it will be less like a root canal moving forward, because this has been, I would rather be having a root canal. And I apologize again. I apologize if I screwed up, but we were in the middle then of an election. I nominated, or somebody nominated, Deb Travis. I see 3 hands up. Are there any further nominations, or are hands up to make nominations? Marty?
I make a motion to move the agenda and call the question.
Well,
The question was to put it on the agenda.
okay. This
Second.
election is on the agenda and we have started it. I guess it's just, Marty, your hand is down now. Rosemary?
I'm going to continue my statement.
My motion is to move the agenda. No discussion.
Okay. By that, do you mean, Marty, we move
No
to?
discussion.
It's a vote. No,
To a
no.
vote?
Vote.
Hearing no-
sorry, point of clarification. Can you-
Unbelievable.
Can you do that when no one has had a chance to nominate anyone else?
That's was my
Right,
next
right, right.
thing, Marty. I was going to ask, are there any further nominations from the floor? We have 1 nomination so far. She has accepted. Are there any other nominations from the floor?
I withhold my motion until after the opportunity to make nominations. But then I'm making a motion to call the question.
Okay. Is there a motion to end the, what do you call it? The period of,
Unbelievable.
what is unbelievable? No, I'm not responding. I'm not responding. We're having, having this election.
Everybody, please refrain from editorial comments.
Thank you, David, myself included. Okay, Ramdot.
Motion to close nominations.
Okay, so we have
Seconded.
1, thank you, Ramdot. We have 1 nomination on the floor. Deb, would you like to say a few words?
I'd like to put another person on the
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see. it,
motion.
Sylvia.
Yeah, I don't
Have a
know what's
nomination.
wrong tonight.
I'm sorry.
I'd like to recommend someone who has done a great job in that committee and deserves to have it again. And that's Rosemary, and I nominate her.
Rosemary, do you accept?
I will, maybe this is an opportunity to make my statement.
Do you accept?
I would love to, but I would much prefer that the 2-year, 3-year, 4-year people on this board had an opportunity to understand that they could have put their name in. We have 6 new people on the board who I can guarantee you wasn't even aware that there was a vacancy that they could step up for. This is not being done correctly. So there, Sylvia, thank you so much for putting my name forward. It's very generous. I have no intention of accepting, but I thank you again. And I just think this has not been done right. Thank you.
Deb, would you like to say a few words?
Sure. I mean, I want to thank Bob for nominating me. I've been on the Parks Committee for all 3 years that I've been on the board. I'm also I run a parks group called Drone Parks Friends and Neighbors, and we do about 24 cleanup events in the parks around Drone Park Reservoir, primarily in Fort Independence and in the horticultural beds along Sedgwick Avenue. And then we'll be hosting a daffodil planting along with a couple of other, with the Theory 9, which is this great group that is operating out of Washington's Walk and Fort 4 area, and Cat Rock Adventures, which is another really wonderful group that is located in Kingsbridge Heights. So that's going to be October 22nd. So this is a wonderful opportunity to plug that. So other than that, I was a chair of traffic and transportation last year. So I've at least developed some chair chops, I guess. And I would like you to consider me for this position. Thank you.
Thank you, Deb. Is there anyone opposed to Deb Travis as chair of?
Laura, I think I got some hands up. Sorry, before.
I'm so sorry. What?
There's some hands up. I think Julia and
Thank you, Julia, and then
I'm really sorry. I feel like I'm a buzzkill tonight, but I don't know if there was a second to close nominations. I don't know if
there was.
Okay, so we
Can we vote on that?
Yeah, we only allowed 2 people to nominate, and then we closed it. We didn't ask if there was a third nomination when Rosemary declined it. Does that make sense? If like somebody else wanted to nominate someone.
Yeah, I think I had that covered, but certainly before I take this final vote, are there any other nominations, or does anyone want to nominate themselves to this? And certainly I would give you the opportunity to speak. Are there any, does anyone have a nomination for someone else? Does anyone want to nominate themselves from the floor? Okay. Is there anyone opposed to Deb Travis as Parks Committee Chair? Is there anyone opposed? Please raise your hand. Is there anyone abstaining? Sylvia is abstaining.
No, I'm against it.
Okay. Can we please repeat? Because I see hands are always up. They keep going up, they're going down, they're going up. Is there, aside from Sylvia, who else is opposed to this?
No.
I mean, that's the question.
So it looks like we just have one opposed, and that's Sylvia.
Okay.
I'm gonna take Sylvia's hand down now.
Down, yes.
Let me change that to abstain.
So that means there's no one opposed. There's one abstention. Is there anyone else abstaining? David, Rosemary, Dan. No opposed. Those abstentions, four abstentions. You have that? And now we will, it's affirmed. I want to congratulate you, Deb. I know you're going to do a great job. Thank you. Thank you for stepping up. Okay.
And thank you, Laura, for getting through that election. Thank you.
Okay. No good deed goes unpunished in this world. Okay.
True.
There's a second on that, right?
Yes.
All right, I'm starting this meeting again, okay? Thank you, everybody. And I'm sorry if I was short. Okay. I'm going to give a very brief chair's report, okay? Please refer to the executive committee minutes for my report. We did have a public hearing. Whoops, I'm getting texted. Okay, maybe I should turn off my phone. Okay, I'm sorry. We did have a school construction. Sorry, we didn't have a school construction. People, I'm going to finish this chair's report and then I'm not sure I'm going to stay on this meeting. I am really.
Exhausted.
That was 50 minutes of wrangling. I have no words. Just give me a minute.
Laura, you hang in there.
I suggest, Chair, we have elected officials on here who did want to speak. Maybe we'll just jump to them quickly, come back to Chair's report and continue that way.
And Laura, you hang in there.
All right, girl. Thank you, girlfriend.
Laura, you're great.
She's better than great.
Laura, you're great. Keep doing it.
You're the greatest.
Oh, thank you. All right, let's
Stop playing.
let me have Assemblyman Dinowitz come and speak. You won't be challenged, and then I'll come back to my chair's report. Thank you. Okay, Jeff?
Hi, wait, am I all unmuted and everything?
Yeah.
Oh, here, video, wait, video. Okay. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
This has been such a pleasure tonight. So I'm gonna
Depends where you're
try to
sitting.
be brief because I'm told you have a long agenda, and I'm sure my other colleagues in government will also try to be brief.
Yes. Go ahead, Jeff.
Up. We don't want anybody getting sick in our neighborhood. Anywhere else for them. We also had 2 council member and myself sponsored 2 shredding events. Recently, we had a lot of people bring their stuff, and we're gonna be doing more of that in the future. Probably until spring though, but I want to thank everybody who came.
You're fading in and out, Jeff.
Am I back? I was cut off for a minute. I think it's a plot. So now I lost my train of thought. Okay, well, so thank you, everybody. We're gonna have another flu shot event at the Riverdale Y. The council member and myself are sponsoring it, and that is going to that hasn't happened, October 27th. I just want to remind everybody, we know election day is Tuesday, November 8th, but we have early voting from Saturday, November 6th. That's 9 days of early voting. We're putting information out there on the schedule, so everybody should have plenty of time to vote. There are 10 different days to vote. The early voting takes place not in your home poll necessarily, so you can go on the website if you have any questions as to where you go to vote, but of course you should vote. In addition, you can still apply for an absentee ballot, but the time to apply by mail for an absentee ballot is through the 24th of October, and then your ballots have to be postmarked by election day and received within a week after that, but I wouldn't wait that long if I were you. So those are the dates. I'm not going to get specifically into a lot of the issues relating to all the construction that's taking place, but it is very disturbing. Not so much that we have new buildings going up, but the I guess the scale that we're talking about, it's just too much. Whether it's on Van Cortlandt Park, south, at the visitation site. And I've been pushing for years to get a school there, as you all know. And I don't have an objection to housing there, but I sure do wish there was a lot less of it, and more of it was geared towards families, not, studios and small apartments. Another building is going to go up now on West 232nd Street between Tibbet and Irwin for a charter school, a 7 or 8, I think it's an 8-story building. Again, I am concerned about the massive amount of traffic that schools cause. We have within a 2-block radius of that location over a dozen other schools, and all the noise and kids that go with it. We love kids, but we don't want them all in the same place. But that is proceeding as far as I know, but we have to really carefully monitor that. And last, because as I said, we're being brief, I just want to remind everybody that my office continues to remain open. It's been open, it's available to everybody in the community. People can come by, they can call. We have been meeting constituents outside the office. It's actually worked out pretty well. And at this meeting, I won't go into a number of the issues that we are going to be confronting in Albany and some of the things going on in the next few months, because, as I said, I'm going to be uncharacteristically brief. So thank you all. I don't know if you want to do any questions or not, but otherwise, I'm sure the rest of the meeting will be at least as enjoyable.
Laura, you're muted, Madam Chair.
Okay, sorry. Thank you. I understand Senator Biaggi was here, and is she still here, Kira? She
may have left. Her rep, Tyler Wong, is here, but I don't see the senator here anymore.
Okay. All right. She had to leave, and thank you, Tyler, for joining us. I see Eric. So Eric, why don't you speak?
Thank you, Laura.
Welcome.
So first, I want to recognize Tambi Chowdhury, my one of my staff members, who's going to be taking on a lot of the CBA stuff. Some of you have already had interactions with him. I know Kira and he have been talking a lot about some of the local issues, but I just want to recognize him, and he's also going to be a face that you'll be familiar with. I want to start just with an update on the visitation site. As the same as the assembly member, I think that's too much of the housing, too many units, and the schools not enough. I have met with the developer a few times. I've expressed this to them very clearly, that the balance of studios, 1 bedrooms versus more family size unit 2 and 3 is imbalanced. And I have actually just today met with a number of the residents living near this site. So this is something I'm going to continue to work on to fix that balance. And in addition, some of the environmental issues. More broadly, as many of you know, the daylighting of Tibbetsburg has been a priority of mine. That's something in the general area. Additional trees along Major Deegan is something that I brought up in the most recent parks hearing. And of course, we got over $5 million in capital funding for Van Cortlandt Park. So that greater neighborhood, the environment in that greater neighborhood is something that I've been attuned to since I took office. I want to let you know that on Monday, October 17th, 5 o'clock, I'm going to be hosting a grant information session. It's with Citizen Committee, and they provide grants for community organizations. Don't have to be a 501c3. If you're one of the parks cleanups groups, or you're a local merchants association, but you're not registered, that's fine. Come 5 o'clock, Monday, October 17th. If you're signed up for my emails, you'll get the info. You'll see it on Twitter. And I want to let you know one of the bills that I just introduced. I'm very excited about it. I get a lot of complaints in my office. Sometimes y'all call 311 to solve the problems. Sometimes you'll call us and we'll say call 311, get a ticket number. And as many of you know, one of my goals is in the councils to make sure that you are heard, and that I think comes from making sure government is working better and is more responsive to you. So the most recent 311 bill I've introduced, I introduced it yesterday. It would require a customer satisfaction survey, kind of like you get at the end of an Uber ride. They'll tell you on the app that the problem was solved, that the case is closed. but you may recognize that problem as not have been closed, whether it's a noise complaint or a parking complaint. So you'll, if this bill passes, you'll have the ability to provide feedback, customer satisfaction survey immediately after it's closed. And that'll be, and those reports will be reported to the council, that report card, quarterly. If there are areas in the neighborhood that need cleanup, let me know. I've allocated hundreds of thousands of dollars in the budget for cleanup. So call my office. You know, we've been open since I took office. We're around. Call, let us know the areas. I've also allocated funding for to address illegal dumping. We've got a lot of calls and complaints about illegal dumping. So we've allocated over $45,000 to install those cameras to provide redistricting.
You heard me.
There was a little, I hear you, maybe you can mute yourself. There's a little drama with the lines, but the redistricting commission released revised maps. So regarding CB8, I will continue to have almost the entirety of CB8 in the maps that they proposed. One of the Marble Hill buildings, I had one building in Marble Hill, that's going to be added to District 14. I want to be clear because there may have been some confusion in some of the local paper. The maps that were drawn for District 11 actually reflect the testimony that was submitted. We had dozens and dozens of people who submitted testimony, and almost 100%, and I think when I say 100%, I mean like all but one in the recent round of testimony said that they want more of Wakefield in District 11 and more of Kingsbridge Heights in District 14. That was a request of dozens of people, myself, Councilmember Sanchez, and Riley. Lastly, just to be really clear on this, there's been a lot of talk about changing the municipal retirees' healthcare to amend the city charter to allow the change in, you know, if you're a retiree of U of T, DC 37, any municipal union, to change your healthcare. There's currently no legislation that has been proposed to amend the charter, but I want to make this as simple as possible. You were made a promise, and I am not going to support anything that cuts your health care. That is my brief report. I encourage you all to sign up for my newsletter at ericdinowitz.nyc/newsletter to get more information, more about goings on in the community, more about events coming up, more about legislation that I'm passing in the council. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you. Okay, I have a brief report. And like I said, please refer to my the executive minutes for my full report. I have to turn off. I have a lot of sympathy out there from people and they keep texting me. Thank you. We did hold a public hearing on September 29th on the proposed school at 160 Van Cortlandt Park South. Despite many invitations, SCA did not attend, but we had a goal, and the goal was to get public comments to send into the School Construction Authority within a time frame, and we did that. And all the comments have been forwarded along with our cover letter that went through the issues that were raised. They include the problems stemming from the fact that it's on 0.5 acres, the school, the paucity of play space, lack of auditorium, the fact that this is an equity issue. Neighboring schools have greater amenities. Most of them are 2 acres or more. It was definitely put forward that we work with our elected officials on this proposal, and that SCA and Tishman Spire have to coordinate with each other. That doesn't seem to be happening. And that Tishman has said that they will come back to land use with specific plans. And I'm happy that we had 2 small working groups working with Tishman, and they have sent around those minutes. Working with Sylvia, with Chuck, I understand how important it is to get all the parties together, and we will endeavor to do that. And that we will have a public hearing once we confirm a date that School Construction Authority will attend. When we had confirmation of that, then I will put forth a date. We have also asked School Construction Authority for the transportation studies. It came up that there was a lot of garbage around the site, which is understood because it's been abandoned for so long. We made a request to Tishman and they reported back, I think today, that they plan to clean up the garbage this weekend. So this is a huge issue and will continue to be discussed. And that is my report. We move on to the treasurer's report.
Hi,
Okay.
Laura.
Hands raised.
Laura, before we do that, I see the borough president's representative is here and has his hand up.
Oh,
Also a rep from Biagi.
Senator Biagi's on again? She is on the call?
Somebody called Tyler.
Oh, yeah, Tyler. Tyler, go ahead. Yes. Tyler.
Oh, okay, 1 second.
We don't usually have representatives speak, but if you'd like to say a few brief words, please go ahead. I'm sorry that the senator left,
Sure, no problem at all. Thank you for.
that she had to leave.
No problem.
Okay.
I'm trying to be as quick as possible. We have
Want to
a job.
introduce yourself?
Oh, sorry, can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah, I hear you.
Yes, go on.
Oh, okay, great. We have a job fair this coming Saturday, October 15th at the High School of Innovation from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. That you can bring your resumes, lots of people to speak there with. We also have our annual Food and Health Empowerment Fair in the November harvest season. That's where we give out turkeys, fresh produce, community resources, all free. It's going to happen on November 19th. We'll keep you posted on the details for that and where it will be and flyers and such. And I guess the last big thing is we're still working on our awards programming. So if you have recommendations for exceptional individuals or businesses, please just send me an email or send me a text, anything. Let me know who you would like to recommend, and I'll keep it at that. Thank you for giving me the time to speak, and have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Tyler. Thank you. Jeffrey Laufer from the Bronx Borough President's Office, welcome.
Hey, good evening, everyone. I apologize. I was logging in and out from my phone and my laptop, and the universe was not with me earlier this evening. But I just want to say on behalf of Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson, I just wanted to welcome everyone. And I know there's some new members here. My name's Jeffrey Laufer. I'm the Director of External Affairs for Bronx Borough President Vanessa Gibson. There's a couple things I wanted to mention on her behalf. One is, I don't know if everybody had a chance to read it, but the borough president released her strategic policy statement. It's on our website, but some people may have also received a hard copy. If anybody wants one, I'm happy to send it to them. It's a 200 plus page report with all of the policy and recommendations the borough president has on how the borough should be shaped for the next 4 years. Everything from education to parks to environmental protection to environmental justice to land use. It's all in there. Like I said, it's over 200 pages, and a copy's on our website. And as I said, if anybody would like a hard copy, I'm happy to send it to them. There's a few upcoming events. One is our Hispanic Heritage event is coming up on Thursday, October 20th. I think the exact location is still being determined as we speak, but again, I'm happy to share that with the board chair and district manager. Another thing, October 24th, we're bringing back the Tour de Bronx. Any cyclists out there or just leisurely riders that want to participate, check out our website and social media pages to register. It's going to be, I believe it's going to be similar to those in the past. So the 40-mile race will be coming through the areas of Riverdale and Kingsbridge. And we're also having a few Halloween events upcoming in various parts of the Bronx and partnering with the 50 precinct on there. So again, all this information I'll share with the board chair and district manager, and you can also find it on our social media pages and website. So I hope everyone has a good evening, and congratulations to the new chair of the Parks Committee.
Thank you. Thank you. Look forward to working with you as well. Okay, Dan, your hand is up.
Yep, I just have two questions, Laura. The first, and I don't know if you have any further information. I know in the spring you had stated that you would be looking over the summer into FMC. and to see if any of the members were looking to have a meeting. As I recall,
Yes.
there was one lingering project under FMC that DEP had acknowledged. So if you had any further information.
Yes. Last year, we had a lot of disruptions. Board 7's chair was on leave, as you know, and then Board 12's chair left in the middle of the term. And for those who are not aware, FMC is a meeting of Board 7, 8, and 12 on issues having to do with Van Cortlandt Park and Croton, the Croton filtration water system. This year, as you know, September is very, very busy for community boards. So last year was shot. This year I reached out to the new chair of 12 and 7, and we will get a date for a meeting. I mean, hopefully by the end of the year. I introduced myself to the new chair at 12. She just started. And so we'll try to set something up.
Okay. And my second, I guess, question is on the SCA. You had stated that you're waiting for them to give you or to confirm a date. Have we given them any dates? Meaning, is there a back and forth with SCA right now? I know that Assemblyman Dinowitz's office was advocating on behalf of the community to get a meeting. And I believe Fred Klein from his office stated that if we gave them a date or gave them a meeting, that they would show up before the design was completed.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, they said they were going to show up before the design is completed. They're at the beginning of the design. So absolutely, we're reaching out to get a date.
Have we
That's
floated
Dan,
any?
we
no.
want a date. We're
So
but
Laura,
I
I'm
have
just
to
looking for-
coordinate it. What's being coordinated now
Mhm.
is I'm talking to Assemblyman Dinowitz, to get dates, to get it together and to be unified and then get this set up. That's what I'm endeavoring to do. And in my letter to them that went with all the comments, I reiterated to them how important it is that we want to do this in 2022. They had originally said a whiles back, and Sylvia might recall that they are at the beginning of the design phase. They will come in 2023. Well, we need to push that up. So yes,
the reason why I ask, Laura, is the accompanying concern is the Tishman project next door. And it was stated in land use that, we were going to try to bring in Tishman and SCA together. But there are growing concerns with the Tishman project. And I appreciate Councilman Dinowitz mentioning his advocacy on the topic as well. What I don't want to happen is, as we're waiting to try to get a meeting, we kind of lose focus on the other large project that's happening on the same site.
no,
So
we don't
I
want one
guess
hand clapping. We don't want one hand clapping. That's very clear. We need two hands clapping. We need to try to bring everybody together. So I
Understood.
don't have any other information. I don't have any other dates or information for you, except that everybody is on the same page on this, on what we want.
Okay, thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Rosemary.
Sorry, so just to reiterate what I've said at some executive meetings and what have you, it is to the extent that you're able to get this hearing scheduled and done, I think is important for two reasons that we heard on September 29th. This is a community that is open to housing, that is open to the school. This is not a NIMBY community at all. They just want presentations where they can ask questions. We have a mayor who rightfully so is not going to accept NIMBY as a reason to deter or defer building things. But this is a community that not only accepts the housing, accepts affordability and accepts the school. They just want to ask questions about its density and size. There's one second issue that I find, and I know you care about, and it is from a few members of the community. They have said Community Board 8 doesn't care about down the hill. They only care about up the hill. We have heard this for years. It pains me to hear this, but here's a situation where if we could get a hearing for this community where they could get information and ask their questions, I think it goes a long way to show them that we care about them. So the two issues. This is not a NIMBY community, and we should do everything we can, I believe, to have a hearing for a community that some of them believe we don't care about down the hill. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Where was I? Treasurer's report. Okay. Joy Campbell Privateer has just notified us that she has resigned from the board due to additional professional and personal constraints affecting her schedule, that she is not able to be here. So I just want to say that it was a pleasure to work with Joy. She was a great member of the team, and we all, I'm sure, wish her well. Okay, we will hold an election for treasurer at our November meeting. And I'll send something out tomorrow regarding that opening. Okay, actually, I have down here, just to be, not to beat a dead horse, we will hold an election for treasurer and parks chair, because that's what I thought we were doing. So, all good.
Laura, I apologize. I would
Yes.
have had a question, a treasurer related, but I
Yes.
will direct it at you. But so if you wouldn't mind, about that pending matter of the $5,000, which
Oh, wait,
whatever-
wait, can we just hold that? Bob Bender's going to give the treasurer's report.
Oh, sorry. Of course, sure.
Okay. Yeah, no, I wasn't finished. We're not finished with that. Joy did prepare it, and Bob, I'll put you on, we'll put this up.
Mhm. So, the first item, of course, is, as always, the breakdown of personal services and other than personal services, and that's unchanged from last month. I would call everybody's attention to the fact on that item that it mentions the $2,500 that has been allocated by Council Member Carmen De La Rosa for Marble Hill, apropos of the question that was just raised. So that's item number one. We go down to the breakdown of the other than personal services. Again, there is no change here from last month. The figures are exactly the same as they were in the September report. There are no budget modifications, item number 1, 2. And the same with the this breakdown that we're looking at, the different codes for the other than personal services. Let me say at this point that the reason that there are a couple of reasons why there is no change in this report from last month. First of all, OMB was busy doing the budget consultations. As I think everybody is aware, we did the budget consultations in September with all of the different committees, and OMB was not processing payments in the same timely manner that they ordinarily would. And also, as Laura just mentioned, our treasurer had both work conflicts and personal conflicts, and came to realize in the course of the month that she could not continue as treasurer or, in fact, on the board. So there actually is no change in this October report from what we saw back in September. The last item always is the rent and energy, and again, that's outside of our budget and set entirely by the city. The rent and the energy bills are paid by the city and are out of the control of the community board. So that is the situation. And if there are any questions, and Camelia, I know you have a question, so go right ahead.
Thank you, Bob. I don't think, first of all, I'm super glad that we got extra money for fiscal 23, but my question still regards the 5,000 from fiscal 22. And I did ask the office to give me the sort of the approximate addresses, but I was a little bit not happy with the answer, in the sense that it was told to me that 2 trees were planted for $5,000. One of them at the block on Broadway between 230 and 231st. That's not Marble Hill, that is Kingsbridge, different neighborhood, different council member. And the second one somewhere along 225th. Frankly, I drove through, I didn't see nothing, a lot of scaffolding and stuff. I really want to see these trees and be proud and walk by them and be proud that CB8 provided the conduit for these trees to be planted. So I'm urging Laura, I guess Laura, if you can obtain the precise addresses of where these new trees are located, and I hope they do look like new trees and there was not some financial shenanigan with reimbursements and other funky stuff from previous years. And please, for my peace of mind, check if the money did go to parks or it was some sort of a private supplier situation. And thank you for acknowledging that it was not discussing in exec like we kind of all thought, but then we checked and it wasn't. And I look forward for the discussion on allocation of this new 2,500. Thank you.
Well, there's a cute tree planted in front of the post office there. I saw pictures of these trees, and while they're young, they're cute. The money went straight to the Parks Department after they were planted, and that's all I could say.
Okay, I mean, if Kira could send me specific addresses, I really want to look on it, because again, everything that's north of
Kira, you're
230,
on it. You're on those tree pits. You're on it.
Okay, good. But please send me the addresses, would be much appreciated. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I would just like to say, Camilla, I appreciate the question, but I would be a little bit careful about saying things like financial shenanigans without any knowledge of anything that went wrong. The money did go to the Parks Department, and as it should have, and they made the determination about spending it. So Chris Calhoun, I see your hand is up.
Yeah, but sorry, Bob. I mean, the question is exactly because we determined, and it was actually now written in the revised minutes, that process was questioned. And even Chuck, who, you know, is not exactly the first person to agree with me with anything, in the revised version of the minutes of that June meeting, he agreed that the process, to question the process. And we said that 3 times in like 2 different exec meetings, that process was not being followed. So I'm sorry that if I question and I want to see proof, and I want to see 2 trees in Marble Hill, not 1 in Kingsbridge, 1 in Marble Hill. So I do feel like it was a reasonable question, and by shenanigans I only mean that money can be justified in certain ways, but we were told 2 trees will be planted between May and the end of the fiscal, and I respectfully would like to see them. So
Right. Well, the question process was addressed at the September Executive Committee meeting and was in the minutes of the September Executive Committee. So that process, that issue has been addressed and resolved. Thank you. Chris Calhoun, I saw your hand up.
Maybe
Chris, going once, twice. Okay, Dan?
Hi, Bob. I guess the question is just a little bit about the process, and I wasn't at that executive meeting, but can you just, and I had asked the questions in June about part of the process because I didn't remember hearing it beforehand. Can you just explain kind of how we came about to spend this $5,000?
My understanding, and again, Laura and Kira both have more information on this than I do. My understanding is that, as you know, when Councilman Rodriguez represented Marble Hill, he gave the board $5,000 as well. The money has been spent in the past on translating the housing guide and on cleanup, graffiti removal in Marble Hill. And this time it was done, the suggestion came from the councilwoman that planting trees would be a lovely thing to do. And anybody who's familiar with Marble Hill, I think, would not disagree with that as a good suggestion. That's where the initial suggestion came from. The Parks Department then made the determination about where the trees should go. The problem here on the board has been that, as Laura has already acknowledged, she misspoke when in June she said that this issue had been discussed at the executive committee. It was her intention to do so. She forgot to do it. And at the September executive committee, she did bring up this issue. She did apologize for having said she discussed it previously when she was in error. And that was in the minutes of the September executive committee meeting. Those minutes were distributed to the board back in September. So that was the process that was followed. And if Laura or Kira have anything to add to it, I'm sure they will, but that's what I know.
So
Well,
so
in
Bob,
March,
I'm sorry.
in March, the board passed the budget mod, transferring the
Right.
funds from the holding code 499 to other codes. The 5,000 was transferred and listed on the budget mod chart. Again, the purpose for the 5,000 was not, but the 5,000 was part of that whole $18,714 budget mod. The price of trees is set by the Parks Department. It's an environmental justice area, bad air, bad everything. It just seemed like a very good idea. What was problematic was that in the spring, I was recovering from long COVID. As you know, my husband had pneumonia and almost passed. And there was just a lot going, even more, just a lot going on. So I have things in my notes and I said, oh no, I discussed this, but I hadn't discussed it. And I've done that mea culpa, but as far as the procurement and, you know, the steps that were taken and the $5,000 and there and it ended up where it belonged. That's what happened. I have no other words. There is no other words for me to say, Dan, that hasn't already said.
So
Moving forward, now we have
Mhm.
$1,500. It's the same deal with the same council, you know, grant that we didn't ask for. But we're going to speak with the members who live in Marble Hill, and we're starting to, you know, come together to get some ideas on what to do with that. And then we will come back to the board. And that's all I could say. I have no other words.
So thank you for the explanation, Bob and Laura. I appreciate that. And again, you know, what I'm looking at is just kind of sticking to the point. If we are going to spend, and I believe our procurement guide is over $1,000 that we're bringing it to the board. You know, I know I've faced this before. Bob Fanuzzi faced it before, where we brought issues or we brought contracts to the board and we were shut down. And that happens. I mean, my own personal thing, if I had this issue in front of me, I don't necessarily know that I would have personally voted, you know, for the two trees here. But again, it's a board decision. I guess that's kind of what I'm getting at. And I appreciate the fact in saying, if we do have tax dollars coming up that we're going to spend in, you know, the discretionary stuff here, that we will come back to the board. And I think that's what I'm hearing.
That's exactly right,
Absolutely.
Dan.
And we did it with the graffiti. In other words, we had the same situation the year before, and we spent the money on the graffiti removal. It was talked about, it was discussed. I don't think it was ever voted, you know, formally voted. And in other things, it's just last year that didn't happen. And so I apologize. It had happened, you know, we will bring it to the board. There's no reason not to. I'm telling you, it was just, it was long COVID and brain fog. All
Chris
right.
Calhoun, Chris Calhoun, I see your hand is up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dan. Chris.
Chris, you're muted.
My goodness, it's 8:30. Right.
All right, well, that is the treasurer's report. Thank you.
Okay. We'll move on to the district manager's report. Kira?
Just one, I'm sorry, just one question for Bob. I'm sorry, I missed it as you were scrolling down. I think you said here's the dollar amount from Carmen De La Rosa. And I just, once again, I didn't see it. Do you mind just going back to show me where it is on the sheet? I don't know
Hmm.
why, maybe it went by too quick, or
Right
can
there.
you show me where this is?
Yeah,
Where?
you
Where
see
am I
the
looking?
operating budget update? You see that paragraph,
Okay,
Rosemary?
oh, I see, 2,500 for, God, thank you, thank you.
You're
thank you.
welcome.
Okay.
Okay. DM's report. Kira.
Good evening, everyone. I'm going to keep this brief for a more full report. Look at the exact minutes, please. I will report that on Friday, Pablo and I attended something called DOT Academy, which was put together for community board staff, in this case in the Bronx, where we were able to become more familiar with DOT processes and divisions. It was really helpful for both of us just to learn DOT's timelines, how they operate, how all the divisions come together. We were able to ask some questions. So I hope it's something that they continue more often. I will report that Senator Biagi's office dropped off tests and some sanitizer for us yesterday. Those are available in the office. Laura, you did mention that Tishman Spire is going to do a cleanup this weekend. We sent them over some photos today. Department of Buildings, we have new liaisons, and they have offered to come and train the staff on DOB Now, which is DOB's somewhat new website. And they've also offered to train the land use committee. So I'm working with DOB and Chuck on kind of setting that up and just seeing how that will look. I do see here I don't know if she's still here, but Camilla Thomas is our new liaison for city planning. She does live in our district, which is exciting. Again, I don't know if she's still here, but I'm sure Laura will call on her at that point of the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you, Kira. Is Camilla still on the call? Camilla?
Yes, I am.
Oh, welcome,
evening.
welcome. I'm so,
Thank you.
let me just welcome you and introduce yourself. And we do have a meeting with Kira, myself, you, and Chuck coming up. So please introduce yourself. Welcome.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. My name is Camila Thomas. As mentioned before, I'm a long-term resident of Community Board A, Kingsbridge Heights specifically. I started last November at DCP at the Bronx office, and I'm very excited to be your new board liaison. Yes, as mentioned, I will be meeting with Kara and you to catch up on Community Board A stuff overall. I'm very excited about that meeting as well. I believe I received today an email from Charles from Land Use Committee. I believe he's on the call as well.
I'm here.
Yes, hello. I am so sorry I didn't respond to your email back when you sent it. So yes, the yes, New York presentation will happen on October 17th. However, we will have another presentation the week following that presentation for anyone who cannot attend. And the presentation on October 17th will be recorded and the recording will be publicly available for anyone who would like to watch it. So do not fear, you will not be missing anything that will be said on the 17th on the later presentation given by Dan and other members of DCP. And I will send you an email with this information just for record keeping.
Thank you. And I'm sorry, did you say you would also have subsequent updates on these these proposed amendments?
Yes, what's going to happen is that along with the October 17th presentation or briefing, we will schedule one the following week for anyone who cannot attend the one that's going to be happening on October 17th.
Perfect.
So
Thank you so much.
yeah. So the actual details for that have not been finalized yet, but when they are, I will make sure to pass the information along to all of you.
Thank you. Thank you. very much. Okay, we'll move on to our committee reports. First up is Ed, Public Safety.
Laura, Ed, can you hang on a minute? Laura,
I can do that.
may I interrupt for a minute, please?
Of course.
It is now 3:34 a.m. Where I am, 5,000 miles
Oh,
away.
yes. Yes, yes,
I
yes.
specifically asked them.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I'm going to ask if there's no objection. Chuck is out of the country, and as he says, it's the middle of the night. If we could move his land use report to right now. Thank you so much, Chuck.
You can cut me in the line, Chuck.
Yeah, I wasn't even sure, Chuck, you were still on the call.
Ed,
I was
I
telling
do
you,
apologize.
I thought
Ed.
that you just, okay, so go
If I
ahead.
did
Thank
not
you,
have
Chuck.
an 8 a.m. appointment, which is in about 4.5 hours, I wouldn't mind, but I do have a problem. I
Oh, no,
thank you.
absolutely. We will
Gracious
discuss
as
this.
always, Ed. Thank you. I have 3 reports, but I'm going to give you a comment first, which I'm not happy to give, but I do give it. The city planning report scheduled for next Monday is, in my view, a disgraceful reflection on a bad administration. It is scheduled for a holiday that was called to the attention of the chair of city planning, and they just don't give a damn. And that's a sad reflection. I hope and pray that Camilla will be able in time to get some of us who are troubled by this kind of activity, because it's not the first time. First time under Dan, not the first time under city planning, that they do this kind of thing. It affects credibility. Let me now turn to the report. With respect to visitation, I'm going to be very brief. With respect to visitation, I will make the point that I've made both to Rosemary and to Laura, that it is my view that because so many committees have a piece of the problem, that the time for the hearing should be where all of those committees can be heard simultaneously. And I think it ought to be at whatever time it's set for, should be by way of a special board meeting so that they're all in. There is no longer a committee of the whole, which once existed, and so that everybody else can participate. This is something that clearly warrants that kind of attention. And by the way, I'm told that Assemblyman Dinowitz has been able to persuade the School Construction Authority to work out a date when it will appear in the very near future. And I thank the Assemblyman for doing that. There are 3 resolutions before you. So let me take the easiest one. The first one is the approval of an application for a BSA variance for an extension of a basement that was used as a stationery store and for a late filing of the location. This basement facility was used for years and years. It had to get a variance to do it. The variance has lapsed. They've now come in and asked for an extension so that they can go out and try and rent this place in a fashion that will make it usable space for the benefit of the tenants. I think they were going to use it for some sort of dry cleaning operation. It was unanimously approved by the Land Use Committee. May I move the resolution, please?
Yes. Is there any discussion on the resolution?
Yes, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, I was not at the meeting for this vote, so my name has to be taken off of that first vote. You remember you remember what I was doing, right?
Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
remember.
I was not there for the beginning, so just to take my name off of that resolution and then go forward with the board action. Thank you.
Okay.
What would you like to do? I'm sorry.
Kira will take care of it.
Okay.
Okay. Kira, you got that? That's what's hard when you vote on Zoom. Anybody opposed? Anybody, and if somebody's not there, it gets recorded inefficiently.
No, and Madam Chair, I understand everybody has a lot of things to do, but I said this at exec, so I understand everybody has a lot of things to do, but to make it clear, just thank you. Take my name
Any
off.
other discussion on the resolution? Okay, I don't see any hands. Is there anyone opposed to the resolution? Is there anyone abstaining on the resolution? Then the resolution unanimously approved. Okay, Chuck, next one.
Second item is Chevier. We have previously had problems with Chevier on its violation of SNAD. Now, when I say Chevier and its violation of SNAD, I will tell you that the way this development that is Chevier today is constructed is not really Chevier. What it looks like is the following. A group of folks from Brooklyn in the real estate business purchased the land and leased back the facility that is Chevier to another group. Antics that I was the fellow who was building commissioner and went after Bergman and Hollander, and I have a sense that this is some sort of stuff going to happen again. The issue here is the following. We were called at the board by community people who sent us photographs of the trees being cut down again. They were recorded, there were visitations made, Stephanie Coggins, Paula Kaplan, et al. We have the photographs in the office. They were immediately transmitted by Kira to the building department. The building department inspected and has issued a violation. Now, I am suggesting that action needs to be taken. This is the second time that we have a violation of SNAD by the very same group of people, whoever they are, that are hiding under the banner of Chevier. And the action I propose is the following: that we be authorized, either the chair of the board or the chair of land use or both, to communicate with the New York State Department of Health, the New York City Department of Health, and the Department of City Planning because it is SNAD, to call to their attention this blatant violation. I mean, when one person stopped them from trying to do it, the guy said, these aren't really full trees, so we can cut them down. So I would like to communicate, or have the chair communicate, or I'll do it with those three agencies, asking that they conduct their own investigation, that if they confirm what the building department found, what our photographs show, and what our eyewitnesses show, that appropriate sanctions be placed. Now, we have got to do this. Chevier as an entity hospital has in the past been a fine institution. This is wrong. This is not the first time, and I think we have got to get an investigation and sanctions, and real sanctions, or this will happen all the time, and there's no reason for anyone else to obey the law. I move my resolution.
Okay, any discussion on the resolution? Any discussion on the resolution? Okay, is there anyone opposed to the resolution? Anyone opposed? Okay. Is Akira, you watching? I see Camelia.
No, sorry, not opposed. I just wanted to ask a quick question, Laura.
Oh, a discussion. Okay. Go ahead.
Chair Mordler, just a quick question. I mean, you mentioned as authorities to go to basically complain about the situation, city planning, city and state, as well as the health department, city and state. But do they have, how to say, enforcement capabilities as far as SNAD? Like, wouldn't you also want to go to parks, to their enforcement division, that kind of thing? I just don't know. I'm just asking.
I understand. It's a perfectly legitimate question. The health department regulates nursing homes, both the city and the state, and they can take action where the operator of the nursing home is not conducting themselves in a credible fashion. That's not the language of the statute, but that's the operation. I've seen it used. I've used it myself, all right? So that's their authority. and it's the strongest authority in this case. City planning under the prior administration had a very ambivalent attitude towards SNAG. They didn't enforce it the way I would do it, namely it's a law and you have the right to force the person to do something. So for example, I would recommend that they be required to replant every tree they cut down and then 10% for good measure. In the prior administration, they were very lax about that. They felt, we'll do what we can and get it. They never came back to the board to tell us what they did about any of these things. So for example, there's a house on 246th Street that was built where the builder just took the position, it's cheaper to pay the fine than comply with the law. So those are why those agencies will pay. Parks has no jurisdiction. It's not a park. So that's why I picked those. And city planning was a late starter.
Got it. Thank you.
Any other discussion before we call the question? Okay, is there anyone opposed to this resolution? Anyone opposed? Raise your hand. Okay, anyone abstaining from the resolution? Anyone abstaining? Julia? Kira, you got that? Julia's hand is up. Okay, so the resolution passes.
The third one is an important one for over and above the request. The request specifically is by the STAG organization for permission to commence work on Saturdays instead of at 10 a.m. at 9 a.m. And that's only while the concrete pouring is going on. Now, the issue here is we have been able, thanks to David Gelman and Marty Wolpoff, to work with them on this site to the extent of being able to deal with all or most, if not all, of the issues that neighbors and others have raised. And if you're going to, I've had my problems with STAG, as most of you know. But this is a case where there has been cooperation, and cooperation is a two-way street, number one. Number two, the person or entity most directly affected is the building next to an apartment house next to the STAG site on Riverdale Avenue. One of the people who has been working with the Wolpoff-Gelman Committee has been the chairman of the board of that building. And he has polled the building's tenant and has reported to us that they have no objection. That doesn't mean all of them don't have an objection. It means that the overwhelming majority do not object. Again, it's only while concrete is being poured, and it's instead of 10 a.m., it's 9 a.m. I move the resolution.
Okay, any discussion on the resolution? I see no hands. Is there anyone?
Laura.
David.
Laura.
Okay.
Yeah, Marty, there was mention of a stop work order and then an answer. Are you satisfied with that answer before we vote on it?
I'm satisfied, and I will report on it after we pass this resolution.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Okay, is there anyone opposed to the resolution? I don't see any hands. Is there anyone abstaining from the resolution? Okay. Then it unanimously passed. You got
And
that?
finally, let me call on, perfect segue to the chair of that subcommittee or working group dealing with the STAG building, Marty Wolpoff. And then with your permission, I'm going to sleep, please.
Yes. Good night. Yes. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Good
Marty.
night, Gracie.
First, I want to thank Chuck for hanging in all of this time. We met a couple of weeks ago with STAG, and the relationship is warmed up again. We're very happy about that. We will meet with them on a monthly basis and get construction updates. As reported in the Riverdale Press, there was a partial stop work order concerning the Oxford Avenue approach to the site. And the concern specifically was, I just had it here, it's the rocks. They brought in, if you hold on, I don't know why. They wanted a geotech engineer to come in and take a look at the rock formation. Again, they've done that before, and report back to STAG and report back to the Department of Buildings. That has been done. And my conversation, my interaction with Jay at STAG is that they are now, the stop work order has been lifted and they are continuing with construction. And that's my report on that end.
Thank you, Marty. Any questions before we move on to the next report? Okay, so public safety, Ed.
Okay, Public Safety Committee has 7 resolutions. I'm just gonna read this off. Okay, so we had 2 renewals. One of the renewals was for Claudy's Kitchen, located at 5981 Broadway, for wine, beer, and cider. Another renewal was for Santa Fe Grill, located at 6025 Broadway. That was for a full liquor license. We had a new application for a full liquor license and a temporary retail permit for Cote Wine Bar, located at 5639 Marshallou Avenue, and they signed a 2 a.m. agreement with us. We also had a new application for wine, beer, and cider for Frida Tacos, located at 5786 Marshallou Avenue. They signed a 2 a.m. agreement as well. And one for a full liquor license for Andare, located at 5782 Marshallou Avenue, and they also signed a 2 a.m. agreement. So that's 2 renewals, 4 new applications. We also had application for an alteration, which I'd actually like to take a vote on separately, and I'll explain why. But I guess we should take the vote first. Well, just to let everybody know that all the applications were approved unanimously by the Public Safety Committee. So you have 2 renewals and 4 new applications. I'd like to take a vote on them together, Madam Chair, if that's
Perfect. Any questions or discussion on the resolutions?
Madam Chair,
Yes.
not on the resolution itself, but I think I should have done this before. For the new board members, I mean, how we vote and what the votes mean should be explained. If that's okay, I can just quickly do that.
Yes.
Go ahead, Brian.
Okay, for the new board members specifically, there are 4 ways in which you can vote. You vote in the affirmative, you vote in the negative, or you abstain. I'll get to the 4th or the 2nd. In order for a resolution to pass, it needs the majority of those who are present and forming the quorum. So if you have 10 people and 5 people vote yes and 5 vote no, it does not pass. If you vote 5 in favor and 4 no, and 1 person abstains, you just still don't have a majority of the members present and voting. It does not pass. However, the 4th method is if you personally have a conflict of interest. And I'm not the final authority. The committee, Conflict of Interest Board of the city is the authority. If you think you have a conflict, you can either ask me and I will give you the best of my judgment, but you should probably contact the Conflict of Interest Board, call them up and tell them what your situation is, and they will tell you. If you have a conflict and the vote is now 5 in favor, 4 against, and 1 person who is abstaining, it's not called an abstention. Well, it's called an abstention. It's absent, ineligible to vote. that means you have a conflict. If you own one of these properties, for example, and you have direct relationship with, obviously, the resolution being presented, you cannot vote. And since you cannot vote, a vote of 5 in favor, 4 against, and 1 ineligible to vote, the resolution passes. Hope that's clear. If not, I'd be happy later on to take as many questions as any moment may have. Thank you.
Marty. I will say that a lot of this was covered at the new members orientation with the Borough President's office, but it always, you know, it's always good to review. So without further ado.
Laura, before we vote, I see Moses has his hand up.
Oh, I'm
Yep.
sorry. You know what? I have to do that now. Put these participants up. Okay, Moses. Thank
Sure.
you.
Thank you. Thank you, Laura. Madam Chair, I just had a quick question, just to clarify. Ed, is it the Calais resolution that you're separating from the rest of the group?
That's correct, and I'll explain why.
Perfect. Yeah, no, that's helpful. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so just to state this again, so everybody's clear, what we're voting on is 6 resolutions, 2 renewals, 4 new applications, and the committee voted unanimously to approve all of these. So that's what the vote is.
Is there anyone opposed to the resolutions, to the approvals? Okay, anyone abstaining? Okay, unanimously on those 6. Now, why don't you?
Okay.
Laura, this is Bob Panizzi. I'm abstaining.
Oh, I'm sorry, I didn't see your hand. 1 abstention. Okay.
Okay, so
Thank you, Bob.
the final resolution we have is for, it's an application for alteration. So it's basically a private sidewalk cafe. It's presented as sidewalk on frontage. So it's a private sidewalk cafe by Kaye Bar and Grill located at 3638 Bailey Avenue. So I'm just going to summarize so first of all, we approved unanimously to table this application because Captain Gervin, commanding officer of the 50th precinct, stated that NYPD's received multiple 311 complaints for noise, double parking, and other quality of life disturbances at the location of this establishment. He was careful not to name the establishment, but he said the location, it frequently generates a lot of activity, and his officers have to respond to a lot of 311 calls there. So I know Dan mentioned this at the beginning of the meeting as far as amending resolutions, and I don't know if I'm out of order in terms of Robert's rules, but I am going to ask to amend this resolution at this point. And the amendment I'd like to do is that the third whereas clause, it states Bronx Community Board 8 has received a variety.
Wait, 1 second, Ed. Kira, can you put that resolution up?
Yep, I'm putting it up now.
Right, okay.
Okay, so the third whereas clause in our resolution states that the Bronx Community Board 8 has received a variety of complaints from area residents about this establishment. And the reason I'd like to retract that or change the language, because I had discussed this with our Chair of Economic Development, Nick Fazio, who's concerned about, we don't want to start throwing around accusations specifically about an establishment. If the board has received complaints about that block and that area, and upon further examination, we're unsure where it's coming from. There was complaints about one of the other establishments there. So I don't want to use that language when we don't have clarity about, was this the business that all these complaints were directed at? And there's also the thrown into that, a lot of these complaints, possibly all of them, were sent by one woman. Okay. And, not that that's here or there were multiple complaints, but so before we even vote on this, I'd like to just strike that third whereas clause. And I will say one thing also, striking that whereas clause, and regardless of whatever complaints the community board received or didn't receive about this establishment of that or the area has no in my view, has no bearing or little bearing on the spirit of the resolution, and how our committee voted, because I mean, basically the captain stood up in front of us and in front of their representative and said that your business has been generating a lot of complaints, and that's good enough for me. You know, the 50th was adamant about that this business has been a problem, and I'm gonna discuss this with Nick and try to work with dealing with the business. Me personally, as chair, I think we gave them a break by not voting it down, and that was on, kudos to Sergio for that, because he was the one who suggested the motion to table it until they could provide us some type of information of how they're going to deal with these ongoing problems they're having. And there was also another issue with them about, in this resolution, about they needed to provide also patron capacity for this extension that they're building. They gave us a bunch of plans, but when asked what the patron capacity was, they couldn't provide the answer. And I think that's kind of important. There's fire codes, there's all types of stuff at stake here. So it wasn't, but the main issue was the noise with them. So sorry if I'm dragging this out, but I just wanted to give an explanation about of why I want to take this whereas clause out, and why I'd still like to vote on it. And I still think that it's in the spirit of it, everything was done correctly.
Okay, so Ed, we'll strike the third whereas.
That's the motion.
Yes,
Does anybody
we'll vote on this as amended by
Correct.
you. Okay, any other discussion?
This is a point of information, Madam Chair. The community board does not vote through resolution to table. That's a parliamentary action. The community board takes positions on an SLA application. The committee has already tabled this. Is that correct? Through the vote of the committee? They voted to table. There's no need for this resolution whatsoever. It needs to be voted on by the committee at a next meeting, and those issues that Ed describes adjudicated, and whatever the decision of the committee is, once they untable it and vote on it, yay or nay, then they bring it to the board. There's no need for this resolution. The community board cannot resolve to table. Someone can move to table and get a motion, but you don't need it if Ed just wants to withdraw the motion and bring it back to committee. I'm voting against this because it's out of parliamentary order and unnecessary. I would ask that the motion be withdrawn and brought back to committee to reach a decision that is different than tabled.
Marty, do you want to weigh in first before I see there are other hands, but
I'd like to hear the other comments first.
okay. We've heard from Bob, Rosemary, and Dan.
Okay, so actually, maybe it's part of what Bob Finuzzi was talking about, but my question to Ed was, looking at the resolution, amended or not, what was your intention with that resolution? Does that resolution get sent to the state liquor authority or not? That actually was my question.
No.
Okay, so Bob Finuzzi, so it exists only for us and not for information for state liquor authority, correct?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. That's all I wanted to know. Thank you. Okay.
Dan?
Dan, you're muted.
Thank you. I'm sorry. So Ed, it's just a question. I don't know if you have this information handy or not. Do you know when their liquor license expires or when it's set to renew? Like ultimately getting to whether or not there's a timing issue here.
I don't want to say because I couldn't say with accuracy. I could take a stupid.
Understood.
Don't need that.
Understood. Okay. But but we have enough time to act on this, you think?
I can't answer that either because we're not having an October meeting because of the holidays. That was my last announcement. So we're going to meet in November. That might have to be something mediated a different way.
Gotcha. Thank you, Ed.
So Marty, regarding whether we
Well,
vote
I'm
on this resolution or not, necessary, not necessary, what?
Based on Rosemary's comment, I'm a little confused. If, and also Dan's comment, if this is not going to State Liquor Authority, there's nothing for us to vote on. And therefore withdrawing it is perfect.
That's my point, Marty. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
unnecessary. Yep.
Okay,
Okay, I just want to make one slight comment on, I'm fine with that. That actually works better for me. The reason I thought it would probably be appropriate to turn this into a resolution, it wasn't like nobody showed up for the business. They did have a representative there, and I wanted something to reflect for the record that we voted to table this because we wanted them to come back with further information showing how that they were going to basically, prevent these problems from happening in the future. But if you're saying that, now that I'm hearing all this, maybe that's just fine being reflected in the minutes and we can leave it at that. I don't know.
right. Because your committee acted on it. But
Okay,
we
so-
don't have to
So
add the
then,
board
so
acts
then
on it. So-
I'm gonna withdraw that resolution then.
Okay,
Do we have a second for that? Or do I need a second?
no, I
Motion made
don't.
second, yeah, second.
Okay, so, Bob, is your hand up from before? Bob,
Thanks, Bob.
Laura, I'm very sorry. I'm taking it down. Yes, it's from before.
Okay, so, then we're finished with the public safety, anything else?
Yeah, the only thing I'll say is what I said before, we don't have a meeting in October, so we'll be meeting the third Tuesday of November, and that's because of the holidays. And because we've been going at this for 2.5 hours, I'll leave it at that. And that's the end of the public safety.
Yeah, time flies when you're having fun. Okay.
Laura,
I have a quick question.
Laura,
David. and
yes,
then- Okay.
Ed, do you have any comments about Captain Gervin?
No.
Okay, I was at the Manhattan College Invitational, speaking with him on Saturday, and he informed me that after 35 years, he is submitting his retirement papers, and given time off owed, et cetera, it'll happen next year, but he actually will be leaving in a month.
Wow, thank you. This is the first I'm hearing of it. I guess the public safety chair is the last to know. Thank you, David.
Wow,
Okay.
I was just talking to him yesterday about some issues and he didn't say that. So thank you, David. We'll get on that.
Yes.
All right. Julie.
Hi, Ed, I just had a quick question in regards to the date to respond back to the State Liquor Authority. I would recommend that you check to see to make sure that the responding date isn't before your next meeting, because then you won't have enough time to at least give them some information, what you have on record.
Absolutely. Thank you, Julie.
Okay, moving on, Kelly, TNT, Traffic and Transportation.
Good evening, everyone. I will be extremely brief. I refer you to the minutes of the September 15 meeting. I thank Ms. Burke for her comment and recommendation. I also look forward to seeing everyone at the October 20 TNT meeting. And that concludes my remarks. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Julie with Youth Committee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do not have an October meeting due to the holiday. I refer you to our September meeting. Join us in November. We're a fun group. Thank you and have a great night.
Thank you, Julie. Aging Committee.
Hi, everyone. My report is similar to the youth meeting. We didn't have a meeting in October, won't. The next meeting is November 14th at 4 o'clock, and please join us. Thanks.
Okay, thank you. And now budget, where we'll be voting on the budget priorities. David?
Yes, I think most of you were in attendance to the, excuse me, the budget hearing. So at this point, we will vote on our capital budget priorities and our expense budget priorities. Let's take the expense budget priorities that were shared with everybody before this week. I think you've all had an opportunity to see it and to hear the comments from members of the community this evening. So I would like to forward our expense budget priorities as presented for fiscal year 2024, and ask, are there any objections to that list of expense budget priorities? Hearing none. Are the Camelia, are you objecting?
No, sorry, I thought you were gonna ask about abstentions and I'm an abstention.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
apologize.
let me
sorry.
do so. Thank you. And is there anybody abstaining from voting on the 2024 expense budget priorities?
So one vote, Camelia.
Amelia. Okay, I will deem that it has passed, not unanimously, but it has passed Community Board 8. So similarly, with respect to our capital budget priorities as presented and discussed during our community hearing earlier this evening, I presented for a vote as our priority list to submit to OMB. Is there anyone opposed to our list of priorities? Rosemary.
Again, you go right to the vote. If there's a resolution to approve, are there any comments on the resolution? Okay.
I put the two together. Do you have any, are there any comments?
Yes, I do. Okay, good. So we're on the capital budget. And I just want to say that I will be voting no because I have a number of questions about capital eligibility about some of the items on the list. And number two, I also have, and I've said at 2 executive committee meetings, some problems or concerns about how the items have been prioritized. I would prefer to see some of the items that deal with, that affect a larger community, a lot more people being higher up on the list. So for 2 reasons, capital eligibility questions and prioritization, I will vote no. Thank you, David. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. And I would note that we did get a chance to discuss that. And this has been bantered back or batted back and forth at the executive committee and presented on our website, as well as distributed to members of the community board. Are there any other comments about the capital priorities? Camelia.
No, but just saving you again, I'm an abstention on this. Thank you.
Camelia, could you wait until I ask for a vote? Thank you. Okay, so is there anybody opposed to the capital budget priorities as presented? Rosemary, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, in terms of abstaining, Camelia, Margaret Della, and Bob Fanuzzi. Oh, and Dan, well, folks.
Can you?
Camelia, are you, Camelia? All right, let's do this one more time. I see voting for abstention, Bob Fanuzzi, Dan Paternak, Camelia Tepelis, and Margaret Della, correct? Okay, thank you. Okay, just a reminder that this is a wrap up of our submissions to OMB for fiscal year 2024. But this winter, please bring your ideas, and this goes to the board members as well as community members. Please bring your ideas to committee meetings this winter. In December, January, and that committee chairs please actually start putting these ideas to paper, so to speak, in February, and create a preliminary prioritization in March, and try to finalize that. Please do finalize that prioritization for fiscal year 2025 in April. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, David. Next up, economic development, Nick.
All right, Nick is out, so Moses here.
That's all.
Step in.
Great.
Yep,
Thank you, Moses.
you got it. Okay, so our last meeting was on September 22nd at the Kingsbridge Social Club. Please refer to our minutes. I think those are already sent across. The committee extends thanks to David Lindsay and the entire staff of KBS they were a great host. That was the first in-person meeting for the committee, and seems like there's more to come. So thankful for them. Another item, Boo on Marshalloo is on Saturday, October 29th from 12 to 3. The small business sponsoring the events, there's a few of them, include Riverdale Pop-Up, Bronx Burger House, Cork Master, Emiliano's, Dino's, Ultimate Salon, Frida Tacos, Greystone Coffee, Downey's, and Early Bird Cafe. There'll be all kinds of fun Halloween festivities for the children. So come out, support local businesses. I think it'll be great. Looking forward to that. We'll try to bring our kiddo there too. On Thursday, October 6th, City Council passed legislation to require the city to develop a one-stop shop business portal. Small businesses will be able to create an account that will consolidate all city permits, applications, and information for businesses on that portal. So they won't have to interact separately for each agency. This is supposed to be a valuable asset. The portal will allow businesses to settle or pay outstanding balances on notices or violations that interact with the city in different ways. Now the legislation was passed, it'll be sent to the Mayor Adams to sign, and we anticipate that he will. And we'll keep the merchant community posted as this whole process develops. So we're following that closely. Economic development next meeting will be on October 27th. We're scheduled to meet at Elizy, I believe, Luxury Hall. That's just like around 2:30th, 5540 Broadway. We thank the Kingsbridge bid for the recommendation and the owner of Elizy Hall, Yibel Torres. As usual, local small businesses owners will be presenters, and other guests will include DCWP, the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, and the DOB 90 Commission. The DOB 90 Commission is tasked with developing some recommendations for the DOB to operate in a manner that is more supportive of small businesses. The Bronx Chamber has appointees on that commission, and they reached out to help them. They reached out to us to help them brainstorm on different ideas. Also want to report that from the founders of Riverdale's very first restaurant week, which will happen from October 1st to October 8th. Looking forward to that. Please come out and hear how that went. I know many folks who participated in that. And we will see you at 7:30 on October 27th. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Could you repeat the when and where of the Marshalloo event?
Absolutely. That is Boo on the Marshalloo. It's on Saturday, October 29th, just before Halloween. That's Saturday from 12 to 3 p.m. And a lot of small businesses are going to be participating. It's really people.
I want to see David in a costume.
There you go. So it should be good. Yep. So Saturday, October 29th.
Thank you. Education, libraries, and cultural affairs. Sylvia.
Hi. We did not have a September or October meeting because of the holidays. We will have a meeting November 22nd, which is a regular day. Unless we get a date, I'll have to speak to Kira to see if I can get an earlier one. And as Laura had said, I'm on the loop as far as the SCA is concerned, and the letter that was sent out was very detailed, and I'm looking forward to them answering us. That's about it.
Good. Environment and sanitation, Camelia, next.
Yes, hi. Thank you, Laura. Let me say thank you for attending our very first hybrid meeting in the office. It went very smooth, like really, really smooth. I strongly recommend everyone to to trust our staff. It really took a press of a button and we were live and the sound was excellent and the recording was even introduced in the minutes along with the presentations, etc., etc. I will keep this process also for the meeting in October, which is due to take place on the 19th, because we do have several important community members of the committee that have a significant vulnerability. So, but I will be in the office, so anyone that wants to join, they would be most welcome. An important thing to signal was that there was a meeting between two committee members, Robert and Karen, with the Speyer folks. I wasn't there, but I hope I will be there next time if there is to be another meeting. Our sort of hope on this is something called the Uniform Stormwater Rule, a fresh regulation that is supposed to apply to this project. Let's see if they will become better informed about it and if it will influence the design. And the other exciting thing happening is that we just received notification from DEP, so notification was sent by staff to all of you about the convening of that multi-stakeholder group called TAG, Tibet's Advisory Group, that will have a Zoom meeting or WebEx or whatever on Monday, October 17th. 2 days in advance of the ENS meeting that is on Wednesday. Just want to say thanks once again to the staff that were amazing and really truly recommending anybody that meets in person, if they choose so, especially in a small community, to use the office and the hybrid facility, which is literally clicking one button and then clicking record, and then you're in business giving public access. Thank you, Laura.
Thank you. Okay, next is Health, Hospitals and Social Services. Omar.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Our last meeting was last night, October 12, where the Department of Health External Affairs Liaison came to speak with us about COVID-19 and monkeypox and polio. As most of you may know, there is not enough funding anymore, so the federal government has ceased from sending out at-home test kits. However, the Department of Health does encourage people to go onto their website for a list of locations where you can receive your test kits. So far, vaccinations has been going good. The Bronx, Manhattan, and Queens remain the highest boroughs with the highest amount of vaccination. And this winter is projected to increase in COVID infections and flu infections. So the Department of Health has encouraged everyone, and I want to encourage everyone to go out and get your vaccinations. Our next meeting will be next month, and we are open to speak about monkeypox and about rat infestations, because there has been numerous reports within CB8 about rat infestation. So we will be getting someone from the infection disease department to come and speak with us as to how to control these infestations. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Omar. Housing is next.
Yes.
Stefan Vasquez.
All right. So good evening, guys. So we didn't have a meeting in September due to the holidays, but throughout the summer, we received a complaint regarding a condition of an apartment, living conditions of a NYCHA resident at 125 West 228th Street. With outreach to electeds, NYCHA reps, and the tenants council, we were able to put some pressure and move up some appointments that were ridiculously scheduled for 3 to 4 months out, that were set to essentially make the residents' kitchen functional. Thank you, Kiara, Pablo, and Madam Chair for that. On June 18th, we tabled at the Marble Hill event, and then August 20th, we pretty much did the same at Family Day. Great success. These kinds of events provide opportunities for us to let constituents know we exist and that we're essentially there to help. Last Thursday, October 6th, we partnered with the Councilmember Dinowit's office and had an HPD informational van set up in the district, provided outreach and information to residents that pertain to housing resources. Lastly, our next housing committee meeting will be held on Monday, October 24th at 7 p.m. Hopefully on Zoom. If not, it'll more than likely be held at our board office. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Thank you. LRE, Law Rules and Ethics, Marty.
Yes, I will try to be brief. Our next meeting, our meeting was supposed to be this past Monday, but obviously that was not available. So we're meeting October 31st, Halloween. If anyone wants to bring their costume, more than welcome to have you attend. On the agenda are two important issues. We want to review the policy and practices concerning the hybrid model. Frankly, my opinion has changed. I don't think hybrid was a great gift, but that's my opinion. But we want to look at what are extenuating circumstances. There is some latitude we can create definitions, but we do not have that as yet. So what is the criteria? How many people can have it? How often? Questions that never came up and ought to. So we're going to look at that. One of the issues of importance now, and I will comment on that right afterwards, is one of the things we'll look at is the question of use of telephones that don't have Zoom capability, and the fact that the new law requires that everyone who is part of the quorum and everyone who was participating in the meeting must be visible at all times. There was a question raised, and we contacted the borough president's office, and the information I'm about to give is very short-lived information. Apparently, with the mayor having put out an executive order concerning a population of municipality of 1 million people or more, his executive order has weight. And through that executive order, the Zoom capability remains and continues at least until October 22nd, at which time or before the mayor either will extend or not extend. During this period now, before October 22nd, the old rules apply. So if you're using a phone and you can't be visible, that's under the old rules, no problem. So as of October 23rd, people have to be concerned about whether or not that is allowable under the new laws. Two other issues, actually one other issue, and that is there's been some concern expressed by one member of the board, but the request really extends to everyone. And that is, it has been suggested that we each maintain an email address different than our personal addresses, so that any item concerning the community board is separate and distinct. There is some concern as to the potential there be a freedom of information request for our information, and it's far easier to say, here's my email address, here's everything that's in it. Of course, all requests need to be specific as to what they're asking for, but this is one way of protecting yourself. And so I raised that question. There is one member of the board who is challenging and questioning whether or not the city has an obligation to provide all of us with a .gov mail address so that it's taken care of through the city. The city has informed us that they cannot do that. There are too many board members, too many addresses required. Members come and go. It's too much of a difficulty. They have refused to do that. However, I say this one member is challenging that, and information comes in that's different, we'll share that information. So that's my report at the moment.
Thank you. Thank you, Marty. Bob Bender, Parks and Recreation.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The committee met on September 28th. The minutes have circulated, and so I won't go into any detail about the meeting. However, we do have a resolution that came out of the meeting. We had a presentation that evening from the Department of Parks and Recreation concerning the replacement of the Johnson Avenue staircase in Ewan Park. That staircase, anybody who's familiar with that park knows that that staircase is not in good condition. It has deteriorated over the years, and the Parks Department is going to replace it with a new staircase. So we had a presentation that night. We had a lot of questions for the presenters from DPR. We had a representative there from the Friends of Ewan Park, as well as other members of the community. And the committee was impressed with the presentation and with the answers we received to our questions. So we have passed this resolution, which is there. It's very brief and I'll read it very quickly. Whereas representatives from the Department of Parks and Recreation met with the Parks and Recreation Committee of Community Board 8 on September 28th, 2022, and presented plans for repairing the Johnson Avenue stairs in Ewan Park. And whereas DPR representatives answered questions from committee members and from members of the public who attended the meeting to the general satisfaction of the committee members. Therefore, be it resolved that the Parks and Recreation Committee approves the plan for repairing stairs in Ewan Park as presented to the committee, with the understanding that DPR will return to the committee for further discussions if there are any substantive alterations to the plan that was presented. As you can see, the vote was unanimous in favor of the resolution. And so I move that resolution now. I will take questions and I'll start with Deb Travis.
Hey, Bob, I wanted to make one friendly amendment, which is for the therefore be it resolved. I believe it's supposed to be therefore be it resolved that Community Board 8 approves the
Yes.
plan.
Yes.
Right. Yes, that's correct. Thank you, Deb.
Yeah.
Ram Dot.
Motion to approve the resolution with a friendly amendment.
Thank you.
I
second it.
Okay, is there anyone opposed to the Parks resolution? Please raise your hand. I don't see any hands. Is there anyone abstaining? Okay, then Rosemary is abstaining? Oh, no.
It's Margaret Della, I believe, is abstaining.
Right, okay, all of a sudden Rosemary's name shot up on the screen, that's what I thought. Okay, Margaret Della is abstaining. Then it is deemed passed. Okay, right. Thank you so much. Now, go ahead.
Yeah, as we discussed at the beginning of the meeting, we have a second resolution that Dan Paternak has proposed, and it's concerns the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, which is actually a Parks Department property, which is why this issue is coming up at the Parks Committee meeting. And Dan, it's your resolution, so why don't you present it?
Sure, thanks, Bob. Look, the genesis of this is, I'd listened to the executive committee meeting and you guys were discussing budget issues last week. And I know that the executive committee discussed putting this issue onto, the district needs statement. And my personal feeling was to put this in front of the board so that way we can make a direct statement to all of the elected officials and putting the issue out there and having a full board support for it. I did read your Parks minutes during the budget committee meeting, and I saw at the end of it that there was something regarding a letter that was proposed that the Parks Committee said to put forward a letter, but I've done this resolution to kind of clarify the issue. I did reach out to Margaret, who is the executive director of Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, for some more information in putting it up. And while Margaret has a conflict, I do thank you for all of the information on this issue and putting it out there. So it's pretty, and I'm sorry for the lateness of it, but I put it together, literally today. And I could read through it, Bob. We can just go to the be it resolved, whatever you prefer. It doesn't matter to me.
Why don't you go ahead, Dan? It's actually not that long a resolution, and I think everybody needs the background.
Okay, understood. So I'm just gonna get some, see if I can get some eye string on it. Or if you can make that a little bit bigger, one or the other. Yeah, Kira, is it possible just to make that a little bit bigger and I'll just read from that screen? if you can?
Yeah, hold on.
Thank you. Or just like zoom in or however you.
Lower right,
Per-
yeah, there you go.
Perfect, perfect, yeah. So whereas the Kingsbridge Heights Community Center, KHCC, provides early childhood, youth, adult and family, nutrition and food access and case management services to residents of Bronx Community Board 8. Whereas the landmarked building in which KHCC operates is owned by the New York City Department of Parks and Recreation. Whereas the landmarked building in which KHCC operates is in deteriorated condition that requires immediate and emergency repairs to prevent water from infiltrating the building's interior. Whereas KHCC is using funds from its operating budget to pay for temporary measures to safeguard the occupants and visitors from possible falling debris and repair damaged walls. Whereas KHCC must install a sidewalk shed before winter months to ensure those entering and exiting the building will be safe as an additional temporary measure. Whereas the expenses for these temporary measures and repairs could drain up to $400,000 of KHCC's operating budget annually. Whereas in order to prevent water from infiltrating the building's interior, repairs must address the building's upper and lower roofs, the landmark building's facade, which currently suffers from deteriorated mortar joints, insufficient waterproofing, and inadequate water drainage, these being the emergency repairs. Whereas the total cost of emergency repairs now stands at $4.2 million. Whereas KHCC has raised $2.8 million of the total cost of emergency repairs. Whereas the project needs a minimum of $1.5 million to cover the cost of these emergency repairs. Whereas if these emergency repairs are not completed in the near future, KHCC will be required to move and jeopardize its long-standing services and resources in the community. Therefore, be it resolved that Bronx Community Board 8 urges, Kira, can you just scroll down just a little bit? It's a little off my screen. Thank you. Therefore, CB8 urges our elected officials and all city agencies to examine their budgets to locate and fund the necessary repairs to keep KHCC in place and the continuation of its important programs. Be it further resolved that Bronx Community Board 8 urges our elected officials to identify the best funding conduit, whether through an agency such as NYC's Economic Development Corporation or another, to complete the necessary repairs in an expedited basis and mitigate jeopardizing KHCC operations and organization. Thank you.
Thank you for doing this, Dan. I want to say that the day after exec, I reached out to Margaret to get, some further information for a support letter. But this is perfect. Absolutely. This is just perfect. It'd be very helpful. Are there any comments on the resolution before we call for the vote?
Yes.
Participants. Okay, we have David and Marty.
Okay, yes, almost perfect. The first paragraph, to residents of Bronx Community District 8, not Community Board 8. And then in the final paragraph, to complete the necessary repairs on an expedited basis and mitigate jeopardizing KHC operations and I think programs, not organization.
Dan, what's
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm fine with that.
Okay. The really just
I think that satisfies it. I mean, to be quite honest, and Margaret, Margaret, if she lists her 3Ds, disclose that she's more than welcome to discuss the resolution as well. It's pretty well known that she has the conflict here, but she can discuss the resolution. So Margaret, if that's okay with you, does that satisfy the purpose?
They're really
have
just
no
edits.
objections.
Yeah, no, I get it. I just want to make sure that the wording is fine for the organization, David. I have no objection to it.
Very good.
Kira, did we get that, or Dan, could you send in?
Yeah, I'm gonna try, if they're easy changes, I can make them on the screen right now.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I made those
You got the
changes.
first paragraph. Go down to the last one.
I changed that too.
No, Kira's already done it.
Okay, you're done. Great.
Marty's hand is up.
Marty and then Bob Fanuzzi.
Yes, as requested by Dan at the beginning of the meeting, I think we have to vote to include, this resolution did not come from the committee. And therefore we have to vote to include it in the agenda and then vote on it.
Oh, we didn't do, I thought we did.
Did we not already
To
vote
vote to
to
amend the
amend the
agenda.
agenda?
No,
I
the
thought we did
answer
that in the
that,
very,
Dan came
Yeah.
on at the very beginning of the meeting, and I
Yeah.
thought that was the first thing we did, but then,
Laura's answer was it would come up at Parks. It has come up, but it was not
Okay.
previously advertised.
My understanding is that Dan's amendment to the agenda was that it come up at Parks. So the agenda was amended to present this resolution now.
Well,
No,
To
we-
make it easy, I think that is,
No,
but I
no,
don't think
we-
it
we
hurts
have
if we
not
take another
amended
one
the
very
agenda.
quickly.
all right, can we all vote to place this on, to amend the agenda, to have had this placed
Second.
on Parks?
Madam Chair, point of
Second.
information. Was this brought before committee, and is there a reason why a committee is not presenting this?
Bob,
It was not brought bef-
Was
it
the
was
need
not
for the
brought, Bob.
emergency, was the need for the emergency repair brought before a committee?
it was
No,
brought
no,
before
it
the
was not.
exact, not in resolution form,
Correct.
but the issue was discussed thoroughly at exec. And it wasn't put on our capital because that's for 2024 and this is immediate. So we were going to deal with it by a letter. Today Dan sent this and it was distributed to the board. And that's how this got born.
So
Just,
this is,
Bob,
this
Bob,
is a,
just a little more background. This issue did come up at the Parks Committee meeting.
Yes.
A representative from
Yes.
Kingsbridge Heights Community Center told us about the dire condition of the building, the funding shortage, and the fact that the safety of the building was actually being jeopardized, and the building might have to shut down. So yes, it was brought up, and at the
And
end
there
of the
was
meeting, we said,
consensus with the Parks Committee that we bring this forward for support, that we support it. There was consensus at the committee.
right, and the issue was, in what form are we going to support it? And we were discussing that. And in the meantime, Dan has gone ahead and drafted a resolution, which I think is an excellent way to highlight the importance of this issue for the elected officials.
so the Parks Committee wants this, but didn't vote on it. And the reason I'm asking is because it's a Parks building.
Yes.
And the
Sure.
Parks Department would want to hear from, well, I think we need to give a message to the Parks Department itself that it's their property. You know, it's.
We'll send it
Right.
out broadly. It will be sent out to Parks and to all the agencies broadly.
And is this a capital item? Because when elected officials see something like this, they're going to want to say, well, what is the community board doing for this capital need? Has this been a capital priority?
No, because we were unaware of, Margaret can speak to this issue more directly, but at one point it looked as though they might have had the funding, but now the magnitude of the problem is greater than the funding that they have in hand. And so the issue has become urgent. So that, you know, it requires additional funding at this point. And it is sufficiently dire that we're not talking about something we can put on our budget for, 2024. It can't wait that long.
So Bob, you support this as outgoing interim Parks chair.
I love the phrase. The entire committee was fully in support. And the question was, in what way were we going to demonstrate that support? And we had discussions that subsequently about, should we do a letter? How should we do this? In the meantime, Dan independently drafted this resolution, and I believe it was an excellent way to move forward on the issue.
Okay, I just
Yes,
can't see
we
the
support
result.
it.
You know
at the
what,
bottom.
Bob? It's 9:45. And I really feel like we're not finished. It's 9:45.
I just can't see the result. If you could scroll down, thanks.
It was distributed to the board. I know we had limited time because it came in late, but I really think that if there's no other discussion, I see Ramdot and David Gelman, it's 9:45 and we're not finished with our agenda.
Motion to approve the resolution with the amendments.
Okay, is there anybody opposed Is there anyone, you know what, I'm seeing here, I see hands up. I can't tell if it's about votes. Fanuzzi, your hand is up.
I'm sorry.
No. Bob, are you, okay. Now there's no hands up. Is there anyone opposed to the resolution? Is there anyone abstaining? Okay, Margaret Della for cause.
Margaret, she's not abstaining. She's present, ineligible
And
to
eligible
vote.
to vote. Thank you. Oh my God, what a faux pas. Present and eligible to vote. Thank you. And thank you, Dan. Okay,
Thank you,
so
Bob. Bob Bender, I just have one question for you on the Parks minutes. I noticed that there's a hearing coming up for CSX, and I just want to know, are we saying something? Are we sending any of our old resolutions to that hearing for testimony that we're in support of it?
I'm not sure what, I'm not sure what you're referring to, Dan. There's,
the November
I
9th,
believe-
I believe it's November 9th. And I do,
Yeah.
I believe that I was going to send in our resolutions.
It's the
okay,
CSX hearings on the purchase, Bob. It was in the minutes at the end.
that's right. I'd forgotten about that. Yeah.
I just want to I hope that we're sending something in for support. That's it. And I'll leave it there.
Yeah, we definitely will do that. Lastly, Laura, just just two things that will take 10 seconds each. Our next meeting is on November 1st. What format it will be will depend on whether the emergency decree is continued after October 22nd, whether it will be hybrid or entirely remote. And last, but by no means least, as far as I am concerned, thank you, Deb Travis. You are the new chair of the Parks and Recreation Committee. That's it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Bob. Special Committee on Hudson River Greenway. Bob.
No meeting and nothing to report.
Okay, Special Committee on Racial Equity, Margaret.
No meeting this month, nothing to report, thank you.
Okay, Special Committee on Veteran Services.
Sergio is not here, so I just want to remind everyone that the ceremony in Memorial Grove is coming up. We have a cleanup event coming. I believe that'll be distributed, so keep an eye out.
Okay, thank you.
Just so everybody knows, the event, the Veterans Day event, is going to take place on Sunday, November 6th at 12 noon at the Memorial Grove in Van Cortlandt Park.
Thank you, Bob.
We'll see you there. Item number 9, resolution offered by board member to amend the bylaws to provide an equitable and transparent process determining committee composition in case of size limitation by committee chairs. We'll have that up on the screen. Camelia, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, sure. As if we didn't speak about bylaws enough tonight, but I will do my best to make it very simple and clear and short. I understand a situation happened some years ago, and it happened again this year, when a person wanting to join a committee was excluded. The core issue of this resolution is the mechanism to be used to exclude members that wish to be members of a particular committee in a situation where the chair committee limits the size. The chair of the committee does have the right, according to our bylaws, to limit the size of a committee for a variety of legitimate reasons. And the issue that kind of caused this took place starting in August or 28th of this year, right before the beginning of the session. I presented the idea in the very first meeting of the executive committee on September 7, including like a fully descriptive paragraph. Thank you, Bob Jaklowski, for writing such good minutes. Following feedback to put it through a committee, I went to LRE on September 12, presenting the same thing. I also got feedback from there, essentially to move it to full board if it's a resolution from a member, which it is, and it's not a resolution from a committee, LRE in this case. And then for a second time in executive in October, I presented I sent in the full text of the resolution, including the actual paragraph that I'm addressing. Unfortunately, I was unable to attend, but I did listen to the recording, and just want to correct what Martin said there, that I was expected to come for a second time and a third time at LRE, but because of the Jewish holidays, it would have been October, then November, and then finally the board in December. And then because this resolution addresses the bylaws, it has to pass in full board 2 times. So then all of a sudden it was January. So no, I'm presenting this to the board as not as a committee, but as a board member. Very simple put. I'm the chair of a committee of let's say 5 members, Robert, Deb, Rashida, but then Rose, I'm just using fictitious names, right? But then let's say Rosemary and Ramdad want to join. I really don't want them to join. I don't like Rosemary for whatever reasons. She's opinionated and woman and knows too much. And Ramdad, let's say his political orientation I don't like. In short, I tell the board chair, I want to limit the size of my committee, not to 5, but to 3. And I want Rosemary and Ramdad be informed that they are not in. So this would be chair discretion as a justification. And maybe the board chair agrees with me that she also doesn't like them, or she feels sort of pressure because I'm a chair and she wants me to do the work of the chair and agrees to, you know, exclude those people. So basically what I'm saying is that I believe that all 5 members, all 5 board members that want to join a committee have exactly the same rights to join that committee and participate and serve the community. And my liking or not liking or whatever history with any of them should not have any bearing on this. Therefore, I'm proposing a very simple, transparent system that ensures equity. Basically, you know, put 5 names in the hat. If a board legitimately say, I only want to work with 3 members, then the board chair is given full authority to kind of pick out of the hat the 2 names that are excluded, instead of calling it chair discretion. Basically, the people I dislike most, I don't want them in my committee. So to go straight to the text of the resolution, it's only 1 page, but I feel like it's important to give full context. Resolution reads, whereas all appointed CB8 members serve on the board as volunteers and are equally entitled to choose the committees where they will serve during the course of the year, whereas CB8 values a diversity of opinions coming from all ethnic, cultural, racial, and socioeconomic backgrounds of its members as a conduit to appropriately representing the diversity of the CB8 district community, whereas the CB8 bylaws article 6, section 2, provided the size of the committee may be limited by its chairperson in consultation with the board chair person, and I put there the bylaws with the specific underline, the committee chairpersons in consultation with the chairperson of the board shall determine the size and membership for each committee. Therefore, be it resolved for the bylaws of CBA to be amended with a provision of a fair, transparent, and above all, equitable system of membership selection in the occasional situation when a committee chairperson decides to limit membership size of a committee as per bylaws article 6 section 2. The sentence highlighted in blue below will be added to the text of the bylaws article 6 section 2 and take immediate effect upon voting by CBA members in 2 consecutive full board meetings as per article 9 section 1 of bylaws and be applied retroactively as to the CBA fiscal year 2023 that started in September. And I put again the paragraph where I just stopped before. Last sentence being the committee chairpersons in consultation with the chairperson of the board shall determine the size and membership for each committee. And what I'm proposing we add is following a decision to limit the size of a committee in a situation of oversubscription, committee membership shall be determined by using an equitable, objective, transparent, and randomized process in brackets lottery administered under the supervision of the board chair. Again, because this is bylaws modification, it needs to board vote. So to come back to my example and close, please be against or abstain on this if you basically believe that this board has sort of two classes of citizens. The first class is the board chair and any chair that believe or they may interpret the bylaws to say that they have discretion and have the right to prevent any of your other members from being a member of a committee that you want to serve on. And then unfortunately, a second class of citizens, those that can be excluded or prevented from serving on a committee at the discretion of the first class of citizen. Again, I just want to say, and I'm closing with this, I do feel like this is a proposal that is meant to be for the protection of the board, to empower the chair of the board to answer any committee chair that comes saying, I want to exclude this person, and use the kind of, let's limit the size by excluding a singled out designated person from a committee, and just provides the chair a mechanism saying, oh, okay, so you want a smaller committee, then we have a process for it. And the process is, a randomized, let's see who we exclude by picking a name from, the hat or whatever. I do feel like we are a body of the city of New York, and this discretion comes across in this day and age as bias, as potential discriminatory, and just as something that's not equitable and fair and transparent. And I think any chair should expect, when you are a chair, that in a committee you would have positions that may be opposing or challenging to you, or et cetera, but we are all here for the purpose of serving the board. So this is what I have, and this is what's on the table. I thank two former chairs that gave me feedback, both after exec and after LRE, and I'm absolutely open to all of your feedbacks, but I do believe this is an active situation from my point of view. So that's why I brought it to the board's, to the full board attention, because I do believe it can be solved simply by clarifying interpretation of bylaws. And I don't want anybody to go through this essentially in the future. And I do believe we are all equals, and each of us has a vote in this body right here in front of us. So thank you.
Thank you, Camelia. I see two hands. I see Marty and then Moses. Marty?
Yes, I'm, as chair of LRE, I'm going to ask that this resolution be tabled and not discussed at all. I'm going to quote directly from Camelia. Meetings invitations issued on behalf of Community Board 8 should respect the structure and organization of Community Board 8 as a government body with a structure based on committees clearly articulated by our Community Board 8 bylaws. The point here is that we do have a structure, and we're not talking about a resolution, we're talking about amending the bylaws. And there's a process, and I asked Camelia to be part of that process. I invited her to the LRE meeting in September. We discussed it. She made her presentation, and I tabled it then because I asked all the committee members to go back and study and review to have more information for a full discussion to take place at our October meeting. At the October meeting, as explained to Camelia, at the October meeting, the committee will decide what it wishes to do. And as a result, it will then go to the executive committee in November. And then if the executive committee determines it should go forward, it would go to the November board meeting and then the December board meeting for approval. But the point is, we need to investigate and study whether or not this is a reasonable approach. Pulling names out of a hat is very interesting, but I'm talking now about process. I don't want to discuss the merit because I think
Whoops, what happened? Marty, you froze? All of a sudden, I don't hear Marty. What's going on?
I think
He
Marty
froze.
froze.
The
He
divine
froze.
sign. Maybe he will unfreeze or come back, but if you
This
don't
is what
mind,
happened to me the other day.
yeah.
I had a,
Maybe he will leave and come back. He's not
Exactly.
here
Laura,
now.
can I just answer very quickly on
No,
the,
I want to finish, please.
oh, no,
all
no,
right,
no,
he's
of
back.
course, of
Okay.
course. Well, you froze for a moment.
Yes.
Well, it's in Florida, so I shouldn't have frozen, but
All right, continue.
and I'm a little bit concerned about a board member coming to this board or coming to a committee with a threat to claim discrimination. Am I off again?
No,
No,
we
you're
hear
good.
you.
Keep going.
Okay, so for all those reasons and more, I think this should follow the board and bylaws process. An amendment to the bylaws should and must go through the LRE committee and follow our regular procedure. Thank you.
Laura, may I answer?
Yes.
Yes, of course. I mean, of course, I wrote all those things, and look what just happened on this meeting, where we have all of a sudden a new resolution that we all unanimously approved because it was a matter of a certain degree of urgency. So to me, when an issue is coming up on August 28th, that is in fact creating liability for the community board, I will do what I can on and I will do my best to try to resolve it using the procedures, but not letting it drag for 6 months. So I did exactly, I listened exactly to the instructions. I presented it at the very first meeting on September 7 of the exec. I presented it in full paragraph, including proposing wording, which is one sentence, following which I was referred to LRE. I waited 2 hours on LRE to be given the chance to present and for people to give me feedback. I was given very, very good feedback on the issue of retroactive application and full board. I follow consequently providing full resolution to exec, and then here I am in full board. Again, if it's not, I do not wish this to happen to nobody again, ever. People will not be in the position that I am in, comfortable with who I am, with the language I know, bad English that I'm speaking, whatever, and people should not be treated like this. Again, I'm of the belief that the 5 people that I mentioned, 3 that I liked and 2 that I didn't, have exactly the same right to join a board. Nobody, all of us take time from our families to be on this body and be in the and act in the committees that we choose to act. Chair discretion, quote unquote, it's completely without giving cause or anything. It's not something I believe that is acceptable. Therefore, I suggested a system that I consider transparent, fully trusting the chair in managing it, and equitable. If there is a limitation for a justified reason, because I can think as a chair myself of justified reason to limit committees, then all those people that wanted to be in the committee should be given the exact same chance of being in those committees. I don't think I'm asking for anything. I'm asking for removing a privilege, in fact, and giving everybody equal chances. So I'm comfortable in the process that I'm following, and in this being like the right call. Unfortunately, not at this hour after 3.5 hours, but this is what it is. And I do feel like there is a time sensitivity to this. Yes. Thank you.
There's Moses and then Rosemary. Moses.
Sure. So thanks, Madam Chair. I think my comments will be brief here. I think I had my hand raised earlier, but I think it's very similar to Marty. Everything we've seen so far for me reads like it really should be coming out of LRE if it's a bylaws change. And I think it's, I know the timing is not great. I actually do get that, Camilla, but it feels like if we're going to shift the bylaws, there really should be benefit of the deliberative process of the LRE committee. Like just talking out loud, like one consideration could be, is there any thought about the fact that there are members of the board that have been on, say, the education committee for years, and maybe there's a benefit of that person being there? Or is there consideration that every new person should get priority to make sure that everyone is on the board, everyone gets on the committee? Like, I think there's a lot more that could be considered than just the random lottery. And so it feels like there should be a lot of benefit that would come from that deliberative process. And it feels like, especially for a bylaw change, especially given the big debate we just had this beginning of this meeting about a bylaw change and kind of the level we hold bylaws over just resolutions in general, it feels like it should be coming under that line. So.
Thank you. Let me have Rosemary and then Marty.
Okay.
Okay, just so we can get everybody heard.
Okay, Camelia, just a point of information. I want to make sure I'm clear on your resolution. I mean, it's hard where it's scrolled. I can't see the whole thing. It doesn't matter. It was sent to us, but I just want to make sure I understand what you're putting forward. The bylaw remains the same except for one thing is what I'm understanding. It remains the same. So I hate to use the example, but Ramdad and I are off. Okay, you're leaving that in. Ramdad and I can be gone in a whim, but you are putting in if the reason is the committee size is not to the liking of the chair, then you have this put in the way to come to a conclusion.
That is correct.
The size of it, that's it. So Ramdad and I are out anyway. It's only to do with the size, that issue. Thank you. Okay. Thank you. It's clear now.
So
Thank
Rosemary, instead of the chairs looking at the list and saying, who do I dislike or I'm most uncomfortable with, that person should be out. I say no, the chair should not single you out. The chair should say, I have 10 applicants, I only want 9. I'm very firm in having a committee of 9. Then the answer from the board chair is, okay, we have a system for that. It's not who you point out to be out. The chair will make that selection. And to Moses' point, again, the whole issue here is that we are all equal. And Rosemary, you're correct. I'm not changing anything in the bylaws. I'm adding a mechanism to resolve a situation of conflict where pressure is being put on the board chair to endorse or not to endorse a person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Camelia. Thank you.
Julie? No, Marty.
Yes, I again make a motion that this be tabled.
Second.
Okay. Let us vote on the motion to table this. There's no discussion on a tabling motion, I believe. So let us.
So hold on, but one second. And Marty, please correct me as far as procedure, and Rosemary and everyone. So this is part of the agenda. So which prevails as order of operation? The voting on it being brought, or the tabling it, or that's the tabling.
You can't discuss it once it's tabled.
I know, that's why I'm asking. So you're saying no, even though I put it on the agenda and so it's tabling for what? Pending LRE again presentation?
That was at the calendar you were presented with, and that's what the bylaws say.
All right, we have a motion to table this resolution, and it has been seconded.
Table it to the LRE, correct?
Correct.
All right, so it will be referred to committee for further study.
So
is there anyone opposed to tabling?
Just to clarify, I just want a clarification on it. You're tabling, it was being tabled until the LRE committee makes a decision one way or the next. Is that what we're saying? Or is it just tabled to next month?
It's tabled for the LRE to come back with a learned opinion as to whether or not this is appropriate or inappropriate. And then it comes back with that recommendation. The board votes as it wishes based on what they want to do. The recommendation aside.
So it's tabled to go back to the Law, Rules and Ethics Committee.
Correct.
That meeting will be meeting this month. Oh,
hold on, but Laura, let's please have a vote for.
Yeah, of course. That I would like to have a vote.
Thank you.
It's been a motion and seconded. Is there
I'm sorry,
anyone
one more question about the motion.
What, Jules?
You
I have one
can't,
more question about the motion.
there's no this, okay, on the motion.
Yes, I'm sorry, it's a question about the motion. What happens if LRE does not take this up? Are we allowed to bring this back up again? Because I do believe she has a
Hey,
right
I
to
said,
present- Hold on, please let me finish. I do believe that all of us have a right to make a motion from the floor. So if LRE declines to take this up, is she allowed to bring this back up at the next meeting as a board member to make this motion from the floor? Even if LRE decides differently?
what I just said was that LRE will have the opportunity to review this in detail as to the benefits or non-benefits of such a change. Then it will come back with a resolution, a recommendation. That recommendation is not binding on the board, but at least the board will have the benefit of the recommendation from LRE. They can choose to adopt it or can choose to ignore it.
Thank you.
Right, but I'm
Wait,
just
wait,
wanna-
wait.
Can we
It
please
is-
just get this
We
on?
need to vote. We need to take this vote.
Kira, can you bring the screen back to the faces?
The faces.
Drop the resolution and
Yes,
go to the
I'm
Hollywood
here.
Square.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, all right. Discussion is over. We are voting on tabling this at such time as it goes back to law, rules, and ethics for further discussion and recommendation.
One time, Laura, one time goes back, one time. In one meeting, correct? Or should I ask Marty?
It's going back to LRE. Whenever you put something in committee, then it's gonna get discussed in committee. I don't have a crystal ball as to what they're gonna say and what they're gonna do. But we never had a bylaws change ever in the history of this board that didn't go through LRE. Now, we may just
But it
agree,
did go
oh, wait,
once.
Camille,
That's
you
why
may
I'm
agree
asking
or
it
disagree with them, but the thing with tabling in Robert's rules is that it's tabled. And we've now discussed where it's going. And at this juncture, I'm calling for a vote. Is there anyone opposed to tabling this resolution? Okay, Camelia, give it a couple of seconds. Anybody else opposed? Okay, is there anyone abstaining? Rosemary is abstaining. Dan is abstaining. Okay, Ramdot, Sebastian, Bob Kaplan. Do we have these votes? I'm saying the names for the recording. You know, Bob Kaplan, Sebastian, Ramdot, Dan, Rosemary abstaining. It passes, the motion passes, and we'll go on to the next item. Okay, I want to thank everybody for their discussion, and thank you, Camelia. Discussion of executive committee meeting minutes of October 6, 2022. They were sent out. Is there any discussion? I don't see any hands. Approval of board meeting minutes of June 29th and September 13th. We'll do it separate. June 29th June 29th. And all of this is as amended. Okay. Is there anyone opposed to the minutes of June 29, 2022? Anybody opposed? I don't see. Oh, Rosemary's opposed.
No.
No what?
No, I was anticipating the next question.
All right. We're voting on the approval of the board meeting minutes of June 29, 2022. Is there anyone opposed? Is there anyone abstaining? Rosemary?
Yes.
Okay, it's deemed, Lee, your hand is up for abstaining?
Yes, I wasn't on the board, so I. don't
Okay.
think I can-
Okay, and Lee. And Scott, actually, technically, you can vote for them, even though you're on the board. Okay, so abstaining Lee and Scott, and it's deemed approved. Okay, the September 13th, 22 minutes were distributed as amended. Is there anyone opposed? Okay, I don't see any hands. Is there anyone abstaining? I don't see any hands. Unanimously approved the minutes of September 13th. Last item is miscellaneous business. And I don't see, I see Chris, miscellaneous business. Okay, Chris.
Hi, I have not been under a rock all evening. I couldn't get myself off mute. I just wanted to go back quickly to something. Actually, my apologies to the entire board that I'm bringing up this late. To piggyback.
I can't hear, I can't understand you.
Comment on the trees.
I-
Hello,
Chris,
can you hear me?
No, it's like broken up.
Okay, I'll have to save it for another time. I
We
can't.
can
do it.
hear you now. Try.
Oh, okay, I just wanted to piggyback Camila's statement on the Marble Hill trees. I did receive addresses.
Now you're breaking up again. I don't know. Can anybody hear him? I couldn't hear you. Could you send an email in, Chris?
No,
I could hear you and then now it's like you're at the bottom of a well breaking up.
Close your picture and your band may be able to accept your voice.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Not consistently.
I just wanted to piggyback Camila's strategic statement on the Marble Hill trees.
I'm
did
sorry, you're not
receive,
coming through.
Both addresses. Forget it.
Can you send an email, Chris?
Okay.
All right, sorry. Camelia, your hand was up?
Yes, Laura. I think he was talking about the trees, so the trees will come back. But I just wanted to alert you and the office, Laura. I know the office is working hard on relaunching the website, etc. However, on our website, the mayor of the city of New York is de Blasio, the governor is Cuomo, the Bronx
you
Borough
know what?
president is Diaz.
Can
So
these
if-
edits be sent into the office now that it's 10:20?
Camelia, they're not correcting the old, they're ready to launch the new. It's a matter of days. Just please be patient.
Okay,
Okay, I don't want to discuss the website because it's in transition. And
yeah,
it's
but
just,
it's our
yeah.
community should know our electeds, Laura. That's all I'm saying. It's just
Okay.
replacing a
No,
page.
we had, yes, it's been corrected and it should have been live already. And that's the problem. There is these technical issues going on. It shouldn't be up. It shouldn't be up. And
Okay,
I'm embarrassed
maybe
to
we
say
can take
it-
down this section. Okay.
Okay, Ramdot. A motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn. How did you know?
I can count on you, baby.
Second.
Okay, all right, good night, everybody. Thank you, good night.
Good job, Laura.
Thank you.
Unbelievable.